Mission details. Accept and complete the bounty mission issued by the Arctic Fox Galaxy Lord. Mission difficulty. Sea level mission reward. 5 mission points and 1,000 credits special reward. A random bonus based on mission completion. Special reward completion. 100%. All civilians on asteroid P331 have been safely evacuated. Mission completed. You may now claim 1 mission reward and 1 special reward. It seemed that the completion rate was judged by the safe evacuation of civilians from asteroid P331. Since everyone had been evacuated, the mission was considered fully complete. With a thought, Zhao Chun claimed both rewards. Mission reward claimed. 5 mission points and 1,000 credits. Special reward claimed. Acquired blueprint for T2 Black Rhino class heavy starship. A starship blueprint had appeared. This was something Zhao Chun hadn't expected. The ship type was an starship, but judging from the name, it was clearly not an ordinary one. Host. Zhao Chun profession. Top starship engineer special attributes. Fleet luck bonus. Eye of insight credits. 1780 mission points. 10 starships owned. 2 active mission. Quarterly mission. Accepted. Storage. T2 Black Rhino class heavy starship blueprint. T3 Blizzard class light battlecruiser blueprint. T2 Bronze Eden class starship blueprint. After receiving the 2 rewards, Zhao Chun's system interface looked much richer. Let's study this starship first. Black Rhino class heavy starship. Type. Interstellar. Tech level. T2. Hull armor strength. 3000 to 5000 units. Cruise speed. 35 star knots. Warp engine. Level 4 warp drive. Length. 110 meters. Mass. 120,000 tons. Crew. 20. Weapons. 50 T2. Class 300 mm heavy closed defense cannons. 1 shot at a time. No delay. Special feature. Short-range mode. A model of the starship appeared in Zhao Chun's mind. Its shape resembled a compact rhino, with an overall irregular oval structure. Despite its small size, one of the smallest among T2 starships, its armor was built from the hardest T2 grade metals, combined in a special way. Its defensive strength was 10 times greater than that of the Zero Blizzard. The title Heavy clearly pointed to its reinforced armor. Even its weakest points had 3,000 units of defense, while the strongest areas reached 5,000 units. Among T2 starships, none were smaller, and none had stronger armor. Its defining trait was toughness, perfect for withstanding attacks and protecting allies. Of course, such heavy armor reduced its normal cruising speed. However, its special short-range mode allowed it to accelerate sharply for a brief time, letting it quickly reach allies in need. In simple terms, this was a starship built to take hits, a shield for the fleet. Another advantage was its cost. Only 100,000 star coins per ship. For the price of 1 T2 Queen-class heavy carrier, 15 Black Rhinos could be built. Truly cost-effective. Excited, Zhao Chun quickly contacted Charlotte aboard the Zero Blizzard. Charlotte, can the Zero Blizzard enter warp travel now? Warp travel? We're heading back to Arctic Fox Starport. With the current state of Blizzard Zero, just making the jump back to Arctic Fox Starport won't be a problem, Charlotte replied. Good, get ready. We're returning to Arctic Fox Starport. Zhao Chun could hardly wait to use the T2 Hammer-class heavy interstellar industrial ship, still docked in the Starport shipyard, to build the new T2 Black Rhino. Yes, sir. Charlotte began making the arrangements. On both bridges, orders were relayed. The fleet would enter warp in 10 minutes, all ships switching to deep-sea mode. As captain, vice-captain, and secretary officer, Zhao Chun and his 2 companions naturally had to be the last to enter their rest pods. Charlotte, that was a brilliant fight, Zhao Chun said, watching her on the video feed, once again offering his praise without hesitation. It was mainly thanks to this starship. Without its extreme speed and the armor of a battleship, my bold tactics would never have worked, Charlotte answered sincerely. Lilith couldn't help but ask, but why did you choose to break through by turning back toward the main battlefield, instead of just accelerating and escaping in the other direction? Charlotte explained, once the engine limits are lifted, the ship can't maintain maximum speed for long. If I had kept Blizzard Zero heading that way, in less than 10 minutes the engines would have failed, and we wouldn't even be able to maintain normal speed. The swarm behind us would have caught up sooner or later. So from the very beginning, There was only one possible direction for our breakthrough. Hearing this, Lilith suddenly understood. What had seemed like reckless moves were actually carefully planned. But in the end, I really didn't expect we'd actually ram and destroy that T2 Hive mothership. Its structure must have been weaker than I thought, Charlotte admitted with some surprise. At the time, she had only intended to use the collision to push it aside and keep fleeing. Who would have thought the enemy ship would be completely destroyed? A T2 Hive mothership taken out by a single ramming starship. If word spread, the swarm would surely find it humiliating. Zhao Chen knew very well that things in this world never happened by pure coincidence. It was most likely his so-called luck aura that allowed Storm Zero to perform so brilliantly. Captain, the Deep Space Telescope has captured images of asteroid P331, Lilith suddenly reported. At this time, Zhao Chen's Xiaolong fleet, which they called the Black Dragon Fleet during missions, and the Imperial Fleet had both begun to retreat. Although the swarm was still chasing from behind, it could no longer catch up. On their path lay asteroid P331, which soon became the swarm's target. Countless creatures rushed toward the surface base on the asteroid. The base's buildings and facilities were destroyed, but the swarm found no trace of humans. Watching this scene, Zhao Chen felt a little heavy-hearted. Without their intervention, the asteroid would have faced a very different fate. The entire asteroid would have turned into a breeding ground for the swarm, producing more Hive ships and combat units, and from there spreading across the whole Arctic Fox system. The interstellar swarm was like a spark on the grasslands. If not extinguished quickly, it could lead to disastrous consequences. Report: out of 102 crew members, 100 have already entered the sleep pods, Lilith said on the dimly lit bridge. Let's rest as well, Zhao Chen replied, lying down in his pod. A faintly scented liquid began to cover his body. In that moment, he seemed to see himself at the center of a vast interstellar fleet, every ship painted with the Xiaolong emblem. Two of the starships then entered warp speed, vanishing into the dark void in the direction they had come from. When Zhao Chen opened his eyes again, they had already reached the outer region of Arctic Fox Starport. Just a few more minutes of travel, and the port would be in sight. As soon as the ship returned to normal flight, Zhao Chen immediately contacted the woman in charge, identified as CC-11. Sir, you've returned? She said, covering her mouth in surprise, her eyes wide as she looked at Zhao Chen. The fleet had been gone for less than 5 hours. Not happy to see me? Zhao Chen teased. No, I didn't mean it that way. About the battle on asteroid P331, the female officer asked curiously. Strictly speaking, this question went against the reception rules, since they were not allowed to inquire about guests' matters. But since no detailed report had yet come back from asteroid P331, and perhaps because her rank was too low to access such information, her curiosity grew. The Black Dragon Fleet had accepted a bounty mission, yet returned so quickly. What exactly had they done? It's already taken care of, Zhao Chen said calmly. Taken care of? Such a simple answer only made the officer even more curious. Extend my original Starship Workshop rental for another month, and I need all the raw materials listed in this order delivered within 3 days. Part of it is for repairing the starship. According to the bounty mission terms, the damages and battle expenses are covered by the issuer. I've listed those separately. Zhao Chen sent over a materials list. Deduct 1 million star coins for this order directly from my bounty. If that's not enough, another payment should arrive in a few days. Yes. Understood, the officer replied. What exactly had happened out there? She wondered. Just then, a communication request came through. Without waiting for approval, it connected automatically. It was an internal call from the higher-ups. The officer immediately straightened her posture, surprised to see that the person on the other side of the video was none other than the chief director of the Arctic Fox Starport. You just received the Black Dragon Fleet, correct? The director asked directly. Why, yes, the officer answered. Did they make any requests? The officer repeated Zhao Chen's words. Waive the 1-month workshop rental fee for them. As for the raw materials, arrange everything within 1 day. Also, both the bounty and the additional payment will be transferred into that gentleman's account within 12 hours. Send him a short message to confirm, the director instructed firmly. The officer was stunned. Who exactly was this man, that the chief director himself would personally intervene and even order every matter to be handled with top priority. From now on, you are promoted to Deputy Director of the Reception Department at Arctic Fox Starport. You can assign other guests to your colleagues, but you will personally handle this gentleman from the Black Dragon Fleet. If he has any requests, try to meet them as long as they are reasonable. If something cannot be done, contact me directly, instructed the Starport's General Director. Deputy Director of the Reception Department? The female officer felt dizzy. Until now, she had only been an ordinary reception officer for starships. In other words, just customer service. And now, she had suddenly been promoted several levels at once. Thank you, sir. She stammered. The General Director replied, "Don't thank me. Thank your luck for meeting such a guest. Sir, this Black Dragon Fleet, what is their background? Why are you treating them so seriously? Please tell me a little, so I know how to be careful," she asked cautiously. Their background is not fully clear yet, but they successfully completed a bounty mission, leading the Imperial Fleet in carrying out the safe evacuation plan for asteroid P-331, the General Director said in a deep voice. The woman gasped. That mission was one that many private fleets had refused to take, yet he had actually completed it. She had already guessed something along these lines, but the General Director's choice of words revealed something important. He said led the Imperial Fleet, not assisted or helped the Imperial Fleet. These three words carried very different meanings. Assisted meant acting like a junior partner helping a senior. Help meant working as equals. But led meant the Black Dragon Fleet was the core of the battle, with the Imperial Fleet supporting them. Also, a very important figure has asked about the Black Dragon Fleet. That person will soon visit our Arctic Fox Starport. This is someone we cannot afford to offend. Even the Lord of the Arctic Fox Star System would have to greet them with a smile and treat them warmly, the General Director said nervously. Someone that even the Lord of the Arctic Fox Star System had to treat with such respect? The Lord of the Arctic Fox Star System was a renowned Imperial Count, with a real chance of being granted the title of Marquis within the next 10 years. A person who even an Imperial Count must treat with caution, and now the Black Dragon Fleet is connected to such a figure. The female supervisor swallowed nervously. Just make sure you treat this guest with the utmost care. Report to me immediately if anything happens, said the head of the starport before cutting the communication. At that moment, two starships from the Black Dragon Fleet slowly entered the range of the Arctic Fox Starport, guided into their assigned docking bays. The female supervisor pulled up the video feed and saw the two ships. One was a carrier-class starship, mostly yellow in appearance. The other was harder to identify, its condition clearly damaged. The bow was dented, the hull was covered with crater-like marks as if struck by meteors, and a long, deep scar stretched across the port side for dozens of meters. In truth, these were the wounds left when it scraped against a T-2 Hive Mother ship. What on earth did they go through? She muttered. The two ships docked. The T-2 Hammer-class heavy industrial starship was still stationed there, while more than 100 Orc female crew members without formal assignments stood in formation to welcome the returning fleet. Phew! Lilith let out a long breath as she watched the ships settle safely. After years of running, this was her first time participating in a space battle as a starship secretary, against the terrifying insectoid swarm, no less. Though she had appeared calm on the surface, inside she had been extremely tense. Now that it was over, she could finally relax. Arrange treatment for the injured from the Zero Blizzard. If the wounds are serious, use the starport's medical pods. The fleet will cover the cost. At the same time, have the T-2 Hammer begin repairs on the Zero Blizzard's hull and rebuild the lost drones for the T-2 Queen-class heavy carrier. We need to restore the Queen's combat strength as soon as possible. I'll take direct responsibility for this. You'll assist me. As soon as Zhao Chen arrived, he began giving orders. The T-2 Hammer-class heavy industrial starship was now beginning its very first operation. Inside the interstellar industrial ship, there is a complete set of advanced construction equipment. It can produce anything from massive starships, mechs, fighters, and drones, down to combat suits and laser rifles for soldiers. However, production is limited by the ship's capacity and the level of the target design. Construction can be carried out inside the ship, and when the vessel is stationary in space, work platforms can even be extended outside the hull. This allows the building of very large ships, such as carrier-class starships. The T2 hammer operates in a semi-intelligent mode. It is equipped with various engineering robots, and once task codes and technical standards are entered, the system can assign these robots to begin work. Even so, human supervision is still required. About 20% of the process needs manual operation of robotic arms and other equipment, and the robot's work must be checked for quality. A single T2 hammer requires 200 crew members to operate, far more than a combat starship of the same class. At this moment, Zhao Chun was leading 200 crew members with basic engineering skills, assigning them to different tasks. You team, take the repair robots and fix Blizzard 01. You group, start producing drones for the T2 Queen-class heavy carrier inside the hammer. With his top-level engineering talent, Zhao Chun gave clear and efficient instructions, quickly organizing the crew. After assigning tasks, Zhao Chun went to the hammer's bridge and uploaded a new starship blueprint. The T2 Black Rhino Heavy Frigate. This was the third starship Zhao Chun planned to build. Although he also had the blueprint for the T2 Bronze Eden-class starship, that design would take at least a month to complete and cost 3 million star coins. For the sake of his quarterly mission, it had to be postponed. Once the blueprint was uploaded, the hammer system encrypted the data. Even the ship's captain would not be able to access the full design without Zhao Chun's special authorization. When assigning construction tasks, the industrial ship system would scramble the entire blueprint, distribute it to the crew, and encrypt a small portion of the core technology that Zhao Chun had to handle personally. If the T2 hammer was ever threatened, the system would erase all encrypted data. Phew. Done. Zhao Chun finished entering the last part of the blueprint and closed the interface. Leaning back comfortably in the captain's chair, he looked around the bridge of the T2 hammer. The dark steel design wasn't fancy, but it was clean and straightforward, giving off a strong industrial feel. From here, he could pull up images of every section of the ship and check the status of each work unit. At least I don't have to build a starship by hand like before, Zhao Chun thought, remembering the exhausting days of constructing the Zero Blizzard and the T2 Queen. The memories almost brought tears to his eyes. After finishing his tasks, Zhao Chun received 2 payments and a message that the raw materials had already been delivered outside the workshop. It had only been half a day, and everything was ready. The efficiency was impressive. The payments had already deducted the cost of the materials, and the rest was transferred to Zhao Chun's personal Imperial bank account. He now had 1.2 million star coins left. Once the T2 Black Rhino was completed, he could start working on the T2 Bronze Eden-class starship, which would allow his fleet to achieve food independence and even open up opportunities in the food trade. Zhao Chun called Lilith and walked to the workshop gate, opening it. The T2 hammer was located deep inside, out of sight from the entrance. Without hesitation, Zhao Chun instructed the workers outside to move the raw materials inside, stacking the crates neatly by the gate. "Sir, here are the materials you ordered. Is there anything else you need?" The female manager, whom Zhao Chun had only seen before through video calls, now stood in front of him with a professional smile. She wore a neat business uniform, but Zhao Chun paid little attention to her appearance. His focus was entirely on the crates of raw materials before him. In his mind, he could already see the completed T2 Black Rhino taking shape. The female manager felt a little awkward. She thought she wasn't unattractive herself and had even considered asking this important man out later when there was time. But then she noticed Lilith, standing beside Zhao Chun in a white military-style uniform. Her eyes lit up instantly, stunning. Lilith's natural charm showed in her expression, giving off a feeling that made people want to both protect her and tease her. The manager laughed at herself. With such a breathtaking beauty already by his side, how could a small starport service worker like her ever catch his attention? "Lilith, you handle the communication with this lady," Zhao Chun said, assigning the task to her. After all, Lilith was now his secretary, and she would need to take care of such matters in the future. Although she already had plenty of theoretical knowledge, true growth could only come through practice, whether in fleet battles, internal affairs, or logistics. Lilith stepped forward and began talking with the manager. Meanwhile, Zhao Chun focused entirely on the raw materials inside the cargo containers, lost in thought, a faint smile on his face. At the neighboring starship dock, "Old Chun, why do you look so upset?" A carefree-looking man walked out of the dock with a middle-aged man. The one called Old Chun was the commander of an interstellar transport fleet, just returning from a mission. You wouldn't believe it, Old Chun complained. This time I ran into a complete fool. He actually threatened me with ship cannons, and even fired. The shell passed this close to my bridge. No way. Someone dared to do that to you, Chun? The man exclaimed. Tell me who it was. As long as it's in the Arctic Fox system, my Black Fox brothers can deal with them. Old Chun shook his head. I don't know. I only heard it was someone from a fleet called the Black Dragon. They didn't even open video communication. I only saw their ship. As the two continued walking and talking, they passed by the entrance of a starship workshop. Seeing the large number of cargo crates there, Old Chun instinctively glanced over, an old habit from years in interstellar transport. What he saw made his heart jolt. Through the wide-open workshop doors, he spotted a starship docked inside, the very one he hated most. Even though the ship now looked damaged, with its bow dented, he recognized it instantly. Even if it turned to ashes, he would still recognize that cursed starship. In an instant, his anger flared. Old Chun's face darkened as he strode toward the starship workshop. Who's the captain of this starship? Get out here right now. Old Chun shouted hysterically, pointing inside the workshop. Beside him, a young man with his hands in his pockets, wearing a smug expression, sneered, You've offended Brother Chun. I think you must be tired of living. Come out now and apologize to him. The outburst drew everyone's attention. Lilith and the female manager, who had been in the middle of a discussion, stopped and looked over. The manager's face changed. She recognized the two men. The one called Brother Chun was a commander of a transport fleet under the Arctic Fox star system's lord, and was rumored to be related to the lord himself. In the field of interstellar trade and transport within the Arctic Fox system, his name was well known. He often meddled in others' affairs, and because of his background, those he bullied rarely dared to resist. The young man with him was a senior member of the Black Fox Society. The Black Fox Society was an infamous underground group in the Arctic Fox system. Every place has its shadows, and the Black Fox Society was the shadow of this star system. The two worked closely together, often using transport ships to move questionable goods and conduct illegal trades, earning huge profits. I'm the captain. What do you want with me? Zhao Chun walked out casually, stopping right at the entrance. What do I want? You dare ask me that? You fired your ship's cannons at mine, don't you remember? Don't think that just because there was no video call, I wouldn't recognize you. I'd know that ridiculous excuse for a starship of yours, even if it turned to dust. Old Chun shouted, reaching forward to grab Zhao Chun's clothes. But Zhao Chun didn't hesitate. He lifted his foot and kicked. The kick landed squarely on Old Chun's chest, sending him flying several meters back. You dare hit me? I'm with the Black Fox Society. Do you know the price of offending us, huh? Before the young man could finish, Zhao Chun's foot struck his face, knocking him sideways into a heavy cargo crate with a loud crash. A clear red shoe print was left across his cheek. Zhao Chun frowned. The people around instinctively thought the man was angry. You kicked the wrong spot, Zhao Chun thought to himself. You hit something important. In theory, the collision wouldn't affect the raw materials inside the cargo hold, but Zhao Chun still felt uneasy. Cough, cough. You actually dared to hit me. You even allowed a starship cannon to fire at my ship. Believe it or not, I'll take you to the Imperial Military Court. Old Chun clutched his stomach, feeling as if that kick had nearly made his insides turn upside down. You're the commander of the interstellar transport ship that was ordered to rescue and evacuate the people on asteroid P331, Zhao Chun said, finally recalling a past incident. Old Chun pointed at Zhao Chun. This time you're in big trouble, serious trouble. Cough, cough. That's right. Listen here. You dared to mess with the Black Fox Society. I've already called my brothers. You'd better prepare yourself, shouted the young man from the Black Fox Society who had been kicked. You deliberately delayed and slowed down the fleet, ignoring the lives of 5 million people on asteroid P331. The ones in trouble are you. Lilith stepped forward, standing beside Zhao Chun to support her captain. That voice. It was you who threatened me back then, wasn't it? Old Chun recognized Lilith's voice from the communication channel during that mission. Suddenly, the young man from the Black Fox Society rushed forward a few steps, as if to attack Lilith. But Zhao Chun moved in front of her, blocking the way, his cold gaze fixed on the young man. Frightened, the young man stopped in his tracks. He looked at Zhao Chun warily, then raised his hand to project an image. The picture showed a figure in a black cloak, with half of the face faintly visible. Comparing carefully, it was clear the woman in the image was Lilith. Kid, you're the one who attacked our Black Fox Society members and stole those things, right? The young man almost blurted out a forbidden word, but quickly corrected himself. Some secrets were too dangerous to spread. Yes. And what of it? Zhao Chun replied calmly. Good. We've been searching everywhere for you, and now you've walked right into our hands. The young man from the Black Fox Society quickly stepped back a few paces, typed a message on his handheld terminal, and sent it out again. Then he pointed at Zhao Chun and said, Just wait, you're finished. Here, no one dares to go against the Black Fox Society. Ha ha ha, so she's the one you're looking for. Old Chun laughed excitedly. He had heard about the succubi from the young man earlier. Seeing how things were unfolding, he was overjoyed. This kid had offended the Black Fox Society. He was surely doomed. Zhao Chun frowned. He wasn't afraid of the Black Fox Society, but he disliked trouble. If things got too messy, he would have to leave the Arctic Fox starport, which would delay the construction of the T-2 Black Rhino-class heavy ship. That project was extremely important, crucial. In fact, if this guy hadn't come looking for trouble, Zhao Chun wouldn't have bothered with such nonsense. Don't you realize your actions could land you in a military court? Lilith pointed angrily at Old Chun, though she also worried that their identity as succubi might cause trouble for Captain Zhao Chun. During this time, the succubi had been living happily in the Xiaolong fleet. They had grown fond of this life, so much so that some even had nightmares, dreaming it was all an illusion and that they were still struggling to survive outside, living in constant fear. Nonsense. What proof do you have? My starship had a malfunction, that's why it slowed down. You people attacked my fleet without asking questions. Old Chun sneered at Lilith and Zhao Chun. This is the Arctic Fox system. Without evidence, who's going to believe your nonsense? I believe. At that moment, a voice came from behind Old Chun. Who dares to meddle in my? Old Chun turned instinctively to curse, but the words froze in his throat. His eyes widened, and he stammered in shock. A woman in an imperial military officer's uniform was walking toward them at a steady pace. The sound of her boots striking the ground was sharp, yet pleasing to the ear. Behind her marched a squad of 30 soldiers, each armed with laser rifles. Most striking of all was the emblem on her chest. Next to the imperial crest, there was another badge, gleaming brightly. It bore a single golden character, Chu. The female officer walked straight past Old Chun and stopped in front of Zhao Chun. She removed the white glove from her right hand and extended her slender hand. We meet again. Zhao Chun looked at Chu Xian, the Imperial Fleet commander, with surprise. Why was she here? Out of courtesy, Zhao Chun shook her hand, but quickly let go. He didn't really want to deal with the Imperial Army. After all, they represented the Starshine Empire, and if they learned too much about him, it could bring unnecessary trouble. This bounty mission was partly triggered by the system, and partly because he lacked the resources needed for his quarterly starship construction task. Could it be that he doesn't like women? Chu Xian thought to herself, noticing how quickly Zhao Chun had withdrawn his hand. Still, this was a good chance to do him a favor. Just now, this gentleman said your interstellar transport fleet was in charge of the P-331 asteroid evacuation mission, correct? Chu Xian turned her gaze toward the man whose face had gone pale, sweat dripping from his forehead. And may I ask, you are? Old Chun asked cautiously, his eyes drifting toward the golden crest with the character Chu on her uniform. Our commander is speaking to you. Where are you looking? The female adjutant snapped, stepping forward and slapping Old Chun across the face. Old Chun quickly averted his eyes and stammered, I am the commander of the interstellar transport fleet responsible for the P-331 asteroid evacuation mission. But we already completed the civilian evacuation successfully. So, you're saying this gentleman's claim, that you deliberately delayed and refused to evacuate the civilians from P-331, is a lie? Chu Xian asked sharply. Why yes, of course. He and I have a grudge, so he's framing me. He even fired on my starship with his cannons. I was already planning to take him to the military court. Old Chun forced himself to speak boldly. At this point, Denial was his only option. Otherwise, the consequences would be severe. Xiaosong, Chu Xian suddenly called out. From among the soldiers, a young man stepped forward and stood before her. Seeing this personal guard, Old Chun and his men were stunned. Because this soldier was wearing an officer's uniform, with a single star on his rank insignia. He was actually a one-star brigadier general of the empire. For a woman to have such a person as her personal guard, and with that golden crest as well, her true identity was almost obvious. Yes, Commander. Just now, this gentleman said he was wrongly accused. Go and investigate carefully for me. We must not wrong an innocent person, and we must not let a guilty one go free. Chu Xian said coldly, her voice carrying a sharp chill. Understood. Xiaosong first looked at Zhao Chun with deep respect and saluted him. He had also been present during the battle against the insect race, though as the captain of another starship. So he admired this man greatly. When Xiaosong's gaze shifted to Old Chun, the latter instantly felt as if he had fallen into an icy pit. Don't worry, we won't wrong anyone. Just wait here for me. 10 minutes will be enough. After saying this, Xiaosong left with several guards to investigate. Old Chun swallowed hard, sweat pouring down his face. He frantically reviewed in his mind whether he had covered everything. He had warned everyone in the fleet to keep quiet. Even if someone spoke, their words could not be used as direct evidence. He could always argue that it was slander. He had already deleted the starship's navigation logs, erasing anything that could serve as proof. As for the possible video records from the other ship that had warned him, he could explain it away as his own ship being damaged and undergoing repairs, just happening to be seen by that man. Good. Good. Everything is fine. Nothing will go wrong. Hello, let's introduce ourselves again. I'm Chu Xian, commander of a small imperial fleet, Chu Xian said with a smile, greeting Zhao Chun. Zhao Chun rolled his eyes inwardly. Your rank is only colonel, but you have a brigadier general under your command? Who would believe you're just the commander of a small fleet? Zhao Chun gave a short reply. Chu Xian looked around the starship workshop. She saw the Zero Blizzard being repaired, along with another carrier-class starship. This one is called Zero Blizzard. What's the name of that other carrier-class starship? Chu Xian asked warmly. Queen-class heavy carrier starship. Zhao Chun replied. Queen Bee? I've never heard that name before. I checked the starship database for the models of your two ships, but I couldn't find anything. Chu Xian blinked curiously as she asked. Zhao Chun said, I don't know either. You don't know your own starships? This guy really has such a cold attitude. Just then, the sound of many footsteps came closer. A large group of people wearing clothes marked with a black fox emblem turned into the corridor. There were at least 300 to 400 of them, each holding weapons, some even carrying laser guns. But the next second, they froze. In front of them stood fewer than 30 Imperial soldiers, already in formation, their laser rifles aimed directly at the newcomers. At that moment, the air seemed to fall silent. What? What is going on? The leader of the Black Fox gang was stunned. Why were Imperial soldiers here? What's happening? Chu Xian looked at the group and realized they were here for Zhao Chun. Troublemakers, Zhao Chun said. These must be people from the Black Fox gang. Did you offend them? Chu Xian asked curiously. Zhao Chun glanced coldly at the gang in the distance. They wanted to steal my soldiers. The Black Fox members began to retreat carefully. Hey, you, the one leading them, come here. Chu Xian suddenly pointed at a man who was clearly one of their lieutenants. The man's face turned pale. He saw Chu Xian, and he also noticed the golden crest she carried. He didn't dare to run. He had no choice but to walk over, and at the same time, he spotted his follower, Chong, standing there nervously. What was going on? Chong had told him there was someone here who had taken away a demon-like creature, so why were Imperial soldiers here too? Chong also felt wronged. When the Imperial soldiers first appeared, he had wanted to send a message to warn the Black Fox gang not to come. But at that moment, Officer Xiaosong had looked straight at him. With just that one glance, Chong gave up on the idea. Speak. Why are you here? Chu Xian crossed her arms and asked. The lieutenant lowered his head, not knowing what to say. If you don't tell me, then I'll just go ask your Black Fox leader directly. Chu Xian narrowed her eyes. I don't know, officer. You are? The underling asked carefully. My name is Chu Xian, and this is my friend. If you bully my friend, you're bullying me. Chu Xian boldly pointed at Zhao Chun behind her. Zhao Chun's mouth twitched. Since when did he become this young lady's friend? Suddenly, the underling seemed to realize something. His whole body trembled, and his eyes widened as if he had seen a terrifying beast. You're from the Chu family. He almost blurted out her full name, but the sharp look in her eyes stopped him. The underling stared nervously at the female officer named Chu. Even if the leader of their Black Fox gang were here, one word from this woman could wipe them all out. The truth is, we were chasing a group of dangerous creatures earlier, but this gentleman got to them first. We didn't know he was your friend. If we offended you, I'm willing to take the blame. Just please don't involve anyone else. With a firm expression, he pulled out a laser gun. The moment he drew it, several of Chu Xian's guards locked their sights on him. If he made even the slightest threatening move, he wouldn't live another second. Besides, the young lady herself carried enough hidden safeguards to survive any situation. The underling handed the laser gun to Chu Xian, bowing like a loyal dog. This surprised Zhao Chun, who glanced at Chu Xian with new curiosity. It seemed this woman's background was far from ordinary. After all, even a one-star brigadier general had obeyed her earlier. And what was the rank of a one-star brigadier general? Upon retirement, they could be granted the title of baron or even viscount, far above Zhao Chun's current status. Chu Xian turned to Zhao Chun, clearly asking for his opinion. Leave, Zhao Chun said coldly. If it weren't for the cargo still being unloaded, they had already wasted more than 10 minutes of his starship construction time. I'm in a good mood today, so I don't want to see blood. Handle your own matters. Just remember one thing. This man is my friend. Chu Xian smiled faintly. The underling let out a long breath of relief. At least his life was spared. Since the young lady said she would let him handle it, he had to at least show some attitude. As for what kind of attitude? The gang leader glanced at Chong, who was standing nearby with a blank expression. With a cold face, he walked over and began to hit and kick him without mercy. How dare you disrespect Miss Chu's friend? Do you have a death wish? He shouted angrily, though in his heart he wished he could completely destroy him. But since Miss Chu had just said she didn't want to see blood, he couldn't deal with him on the spot. Boss, please stop. I know I was wrong. Chong begged on the ground. Take him away and give him our strictest punishment, the leader said coldly. Sacrificing one man to calm Miss Chu's anger was more than worth it. Even if the head of the Black Fox Society were here, he would have done the same without hesitation. He might even have punished everyone present just to please her. Hearing the order, Chong's face turned pale and his body shook. He crawled toward Chu Xian and Zhao Chun like a desperate man. I know I was wrong. Please don't. Don't take my life. I have an elderly mother waiting for me to care for her, and a young child who depends on me. His words were broken and confused, but Zhao Chun remained unmoved. Even if what Chong said was true, Zhao Chun believed that those who had suffered under him in the past had endured even worse. This was simply his retribution. In the end, Chong was dragged away by the leader's men. Then, I will take my leave, the leader said carefully. Go. Chu Xian waved her hand. The leader left as if pardoned, and the Black Fox Society members scattered. As for Chong, it was later said that he was tortured to death, and his body was found days later in a garbage dump at the Arctic Fox starport. The leader did not dare to disobey orders. Just then, as the Black Fox Society was leaving, the guard named Xiao Song, who had left earlier, returned. Old Chen's face was deathly pale, his eyes full of fear, and his legs trembling as if they could give out at any moment. How did things go? Chu Xian asked. Xiao Song glanced at Old Chen, his eyes filled with cold anger. All the navigation data in his interstellar transport ship was deleted, but he probably didn't realize that at the very bottom of the starship's processor, there was a backup file. I retrieved it. Inside the data, there's a record of his order to the transport fleet, delaying the mission and slowing down the journey to asteroid P331. Hearing this, Old Chun collapsed to the ground, completely shaken. Our soldiers of the Empire fight on the battlefield, risking their lives to win us time, and yet you deliberately delayed the precious rescue and evacuation, Chu Xian said coldly, her eyes sharp as ice. This time, she wasn't standing up for Zhao Chun. She was acting purely out of her own anger. She despised people who said one thing but did another, who were selfish enough to sacrifice others for their own gain, especially when it endangered the soldiers of the Empire. Old Chun had crossed her bottom line. I was wrong. I was wrong. I'll give up all my wealth. Old Chen begged desperately. Xiao Song, send him to the military court, Chu Xian ordered coldly. No, no, don't send me there. My cousin's husband is the lord of the Arctic Fox star system. You can't do this to me. Old Chen cried out. He knew very well that once this woman surnamed Chu sent him to the military court, even if he were innocent, he might not leave alive. And now, with solid evidence against him, his fate was sealed. The lord of the Arctic Fox star system? If he thinks I've done wrong, then let him come to me himself, Chu Xian sneered. Our young lady doesn't like noise. Be quiet. Xiao Song stepped forward and, with a casual-looking punch, dislocated Old Chen's jaw. Old Chen tried to speak, but no words came out. He was then taken away by soldiers, his fate already decided. Afterward, the lord of the Arctic Fox star system divorced Old Chen's cousin and personally came to Chu Xian to apologize. Fortunately, Chu Xian did not punish him. As for Old Chen, the military court sentenced him to the ultimate penalty. Chu Xian looked at Zhao Chun with satisfaction. So, I've taken care of everything for you. How are you going to thank me? Thank you? Do I owe you a favor? Zhao Chun said calmly. Chu Xian froze for a moment. She pointed at Lilith beside Zhao Chun, then at the spot where the Black Fox gang's underling had just been standing. Hey, don't try to deny it. If I hadn't stepped in, who knows what the Black Fox gang would have done to you today? If a group like the Black Fox gang could scare me, then I wouldn't have taken only 2 starships to fight those creatures back then. Zhao Chun smiled slightly and continued, even if you insist this counts as helping me, at most it just makes us even. Don't forget, I was the one who gave you the lead on Old Chen's case. And if my fleet hadn't noticed their negligence and sounded the warning, the later battle would have gone very differently. The evacuation of asteroid P-331 would never have been so quick. You. Chu Xian was left speechless by Zhao Chen's words. Remembering her true purpose, she took a deep breath, forced a smile, and said, let's not argue about this anymore. Since we've fought side by side, how about I treat you to a meal? No time. Without looking back, Zhao Chen walked into the Starship workshop. Since the cargo had already been fully loaded and unloaded, he shut the large gate behind him. He was in a hurry to start building the T2 Black Rhino-class heavy ship. He completely ignored Chu Xian, who stood outside in shock, never having been treated this way before. All the goods on the order have been delivered, the female supervisor reported to Zhao Chen. All right, thank you. After Lilith escorted the supervisor out, she returned to Zhao Chen's side. Looking at the closed gate behind them, she could still faintly hear the sound of someone kicking the door in frustration. Are you really not going to talk to Miss Chu? Lilith asked. Her identity is far from ordinary. You know who she is? Zhao Chen looked at Lilith. Lilith raised her hand, projecting a hologram of the golden crest with the character Chu. After becoming your secretary, I studied some intelligence on the Starshine Empire. Among that information was something about this Miss Chu. Although there are no images of her on the net, the details are enough to confirm her identity, Lilith explained. Zhao Chen slowed his steps toward the T2 Hammer-class heavy interstellar industrial ship, signaling Lilith to continue. Our Arctic Fox system belongs to the Beifeng star region, which is governed by Miss Chu Xian's grandfather on her mother's side, an imperial duke. And in addition, the Chu River star region, one of the 8 great star regions of the Starshine Empire, is governed by Miss Chu's paternal grandfather, also an imperial duke, who at the same time holds the rank of Imperial 5-star Marshal. Most importantly, Miss Chu Xian is the only granddaughter of Duke Chu River, and she has always been deeply cherished. The Beifeng governor even favors her more than his own grandson. She can truly be called the treasure jewel of 2-star region governors. Lilith's expression was serious. 2-star region governors, one her grandfather, the other her maternal grandfather. It was enough to show how powerful Chu Xian's background was. No wonder even the Black Fox Guild didn't dare to provoke her, boldly declaring instead that if the Arctic Fox System's lord had the ability, he could come find them himself. You think I should befriend her, right? Zhao Chen asked. Lilith looked at the captain in confusion. Wasn't that obvious? The higher her status, the further we should stay away. Right now, what we need is to grow quietly. Even though we already have 2 of the finest T2 class starships, when facing true enemies, we are still fragile. Zhao Chen spoke calmly. There was another reason. Zhao Chen didn't believe a duke's granddaughter would suddenly show such warmth toward him. If something seemed unusual, there was always a hidden reason. Besides, the secrets he carried were growing. Getting too close to someone like her could lead to unpredictable trouble. Naturally, it was best to keep a distance. Understood, Lilith replied. The raw materials I ordered have all arrived. Our next task is to complete the construction of the T2 Black Rhino-class heavy ship before the end of the year. Zhao Chen's eyes gleamed with determination. At that very moment, Chu Xian, who was blocked outside the gate, would probably be furious if she knew her charm couldn't even compete with a T2 ship. She might even storm in to argue with Zhao Chen. What's wrong with this guy? Can't he see who I am? I invited him to dinner, and he actually turned me down? Chu Xian stood with her hands on her hips, her usual dignified military bearing slipping away in frustration. Her deputy officer covered her mouth, laughing softly. Young miss, could it be that you've taken a liking to this gentleman? Ugh, what are you talking about? We've only met a few times. How could I possibly like him? Besides, he's a completely straight-laced guy. Me like him? Unless I walked out the door and got hit on the head by a starship. Chu Xian rolled her eyes angrily. Then why did you come all the way to Arctic Fox Starport? Was it really just to invite him to dinner and get to know him? The female adjutant asked suspiciously. Chu Xian calmed herself, staring at the main gate, as if she could see Zhao Chen's figure inside. I had someone investigate that starship called Blizzard Zero. There's no record of it anywhere. Even the other carrier-class starship has no record. I even expanded the search beyond the Starshine Empire, but still found nothing that matched. Narrowing her eyes, Chu Xian said seriously, that leaves only two possibilities. First, he has access to a very secret ship purchasing channel. Second, those two starships weren't bought at all. He designed and built them himself. He built them himself? That's impossible. Even though a T2 starship is only semi-military grade, it's not something just anyone can design and manufacture, the adjutant objected. I don't believe it either, which is why I want to find out the truth. If it's the first case, we can use that channel to acquire a batch of these powerful ships. If it's the second, then he's a rare talent. If we can bring him into the Chu family, it will greatly strengthen us. The situation in the Starshine Empire is complicated right now. We must seize every chance to grow stronger. After finishing, Chu Xian shot her adjutant a glare. You don't really think I'm some silly girl chasing after a man, do you? Of course not. The adjutant quickly shook her head, though her eyes wavered. She glanced sideways and muttered, and you're not exactly silly, either. Chu Xian's mouth twitched. You little brat, how dare you tease me? Report, young Mississippi. There's a communication request from the two dukes. Xiao Song walked over, projecting two incoming links. Wait, don't answer. Chu Xian started, but Xiao Song had already connected the call. He then turned and walked away as if he hadn't noticed her sharp glare. The adjutant, knowing better, also slipped away. Chu Xian covered her face, and soon two very familiar voices rang in her ears. Granddaughter, are you all right? I heard there was a level 2 cosmic insect nest near you, and you went into battle with just 30 starships? Xiao Xian, you're not hurt, are you? I've already sent my fleet to support you. Two elderly men appeared in separate video communication windows. Zhu, you old fool. I told you not to let Chu Xian go to your place, but you swore nothing would happen. And now look, such a huge problem has come up. If anything happens to my granddaughter, I'll make you pay for it. Hey, don't say it like that. She only came to me because she was tired of being locked up by you. And this time was a complete accident. I never expected interstellar insects to appear. But don't worry, she's safe now. Nothing will happen to her. Granddaughter, you should come back quickly. Even if you really want to command a fleet, our family has its own. You can choose whichever one you like. If that's not enough, you can even command my fleet. The flagship is a powerful T4 interstellar battleship. You've always liked it, right? It's yours. I heard that over there you're only using a T2 starship. That thing doesn't even have a star shield. What if you run into danger? In the Beifeng Star region, we may not have a T4 battleship, but we do have a T3 carrier. With countless starfighters flying around, it looks amazing, and it's much safer than being on the front lines in a battleship. I'll arrange it right away. Tomorrow, Xiao Xian will be the captain. Chu Xian looked utterly helpless. It was exactly because she couldn't stand the overprotective love of these two old men that she had run away in the first place. Now she had no choice but to set aside the matter with Zhao Chun for the moment and calm the two of them down, promising to return and see them first. Otherwise, who knew what kind of trouble they might cause? The eldest daughter of the Chu family? The leader of the Black Fox Guild was startled when he heard the name. The matter has already been handled. That young lady shouldn't hold us accountable, a subordinate said. But as for that group of charm demons, we probably won't be able to interfere anymore. Although we still don't know the identity of the man who was with the eldest daughter of the Chu family, it's clear that she values him highly and openly called him her friend. The meaning behind her words was obviously a warning to us. The leader of the Black Fox Society frowned and thought for a moment. This is the task young Master Han gave us, and we haven't finished it yet. Young Master Han is important, but he can't compare to the Chu family, a small leader muttered. The Black Fox leader nodded. That's true. If we go against the Chu family, our Black Fox Society won't be able to handle it. I'll report this matter to young Master Han. For now, don't act recklessly, so we don't cause any big trouble. Time quickly passed, and it was already the end of December. The large starship workshop, which once felt spacious, now seemed crowded. That was because 10 new starships had been added. If these starships weren't relatively small, the workshop wouldn't have been able to hold them at all. Zhao Qin stood in front of the 10 starships. After scanning them with his eyes, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. Listen to my command. Prepare to start the test run of the starships. Zhao Chun ordered from the command bridge. The 10 starships immediately came to life. At the same time, 10 video windows appeared beside Zhao Chun, each showing a captain carefully following the startup procedures. Report, Black Rhino Class Ship 1, engine starting. Report, Black Rhino Class Ship 2, engine startup normal. Report, Black Rhino Class Ship 5, transmission system auto check in progress. Check complete. All systems normal. Report, Black Rhino Class Ship 7, weapons system auto check in progress. Check complete. All systems normal. Zhao Qin listened carefully to each report. Soon, one of the starships completed its entire initial startup process. Report, Black Rhino Class Ship 8, first startup complete, full system check finished, all systems normal. One after another, the T2 Black Rhino class heavy starships completed their self-checks. When all 10 had reported success, Zhao Qin's face lit up with a bright smile. He clenched his fist slightly. Excellent. Nearly a month of effort had finally paid off. Zhao Qin directly produced 10 T2 Black Rhino ships at once. Because the T2 Black Rhino is relatively small and built using an assembly line process, the efficiency of starship production increased greatly. On top of that, the cost was low, only 100,000 star coins per ship. So, building all 10 only used up the 1 million star coins worth of raw materials he had purchased earlier. I didn't expect you to build 10 T2 Black Rhinos all at once, Charlotte said, standing beside Zhao Chun as she looked over the 10 dark starship frigates. Each ship looked almost identical, except for the numbers 001, 002, 003, and so on painted on their hulls. Zhao Chun smiled. We would have had to build them sooner or later. Our fleet only has 2 starships right now, and one of them is a carrier. Even though it has a star shield, it doesn't provide full protection. We need a certain number of frigates before we can really call this a fleet. Charlotte admired the ships. It's hard to believe that a frigate with such strong performance only costs 100,000 star coins. And in just 1 month, you managed to build 10 of them. Both efficiency and quality are guaranteed. That's thanks to the T2 hammer. Without it, the shipyard here could only build about 3 ships in a month, Zhao Qin said, glancing at the lone shipyard. The T2 Hammer-class heavy industrial starship had done most of the hard work. Thanks to it, Zhao Qin didn't have to build the ships by hand. He only needed to handle less than 1% of the core technical steps. Let's take them out for a test flight later. After that, we'll buy some military supplies and daily necessities, then head back to the North Star system, Zhao Qin planned. It had already been 3 months since Zhao Wanner returned early to the North Star Military Academy. Taking 3 months off as a student was really pushing it. In truth, Zhao Qin didn't care much about school anymore, but there was one reason he had to earn a degree from the North Star Military Academy. The Starshine Empire required that every lord must graduate from one of its official interstellar military academies. There are no special requirements for the Interstellar Military Academy. Any qualified one will do. Because of this, some spoiled heirs simply choose a low-ranking academy, spend 6 years there, and then return to officially inherit their titles. Zhao Chun, however, inherited his title early due to his father's passing. According to imperial law, if he fails to obtain certification from a military academy within a set time, his title could be taken away. I think there's one more thing we need to arrange, Charlotte said. The establishment of our Sky Dragon Fleet system. Zhao Chun looked at her. Charlotte continued. Before, we only had 2 starships, so positions were assigned casually. But now it's different. We have 12 combat starships and 1 support starship. That's already the start of a small fleet. For better management in the future, we must set up a proper system. Zhao Chun nodded in agreement. Since you've thought of this, I assume you already have a plan. From today, your position will no longer be captain, but fleet commander. You can choose any starship as your flagship. I suggest the T2 Queen-class heavy carrier. It's safer. I will serve as captain of the Zero Blizzard and also as deputy fleet commander. Lilith can be your flagship secretary and also the fleet secretary. As for the other starships, each will need its own captain. We still have about 200 female soldiers without official posts. A single T2 Black Rhino only needs 20 crew members, so these 200 can fill the gaps perfectly. The choice of captains and each ship's bridge crew, however, should be decided by you, Charlotte explained carefully. As expected of a former fleet commander, she had already thought everything through for Zhao Chun. You must already have a list prepared. Show it to me later. If there are no problems, I'll approve it right away. I'll leave all of this in your hands. I'm a bit tired, so I'll go rest first. Zhao Chun stretched lazily, deliberately leaving the work to Charlotte. Charlotte rolled her eyes. This captain, no, now he should be called the fleet commander, was getting more and more used to leaving everything to others. Zhao Chun, of course, never did anything himself if he could avoid it. Since he had people under him, why bother tiring himself out? But right now, Zhao Chun wasn't resting. He was checking his completed quarterly mission and claiming the reward. Quarterly mission. Own 3 starships. System produced. Mission completed. Reward available. Quarterly mission. Own 3 starships. System produced. Mission completed. Reward available. Reward claimed. Gained 10 mission points. Gained 1,000 system credits. Gained T2 Super Soldier Serum. Gained blueprint for T2 Black Knight Class Light Starfighter Mecha as expected. The quarterly mission rewards were generous. Well worth Zhao Chun's month of anticipation. Besides the usual 10 mission points and 1,000 credits, Zhao Chun noticed a familiar item, the T2 Super Soldier Serum. It seemed this serum came in a series. After injecting the T1 version before, Zhao Chun had felt his body grow much stronger. So what would happen if he used the T2 version? Taking a deep breath, Zhao Chun summoned the serum into his hand. It looked exactly the same as the previous one. Remembering the intense feeling from the first injection, Zhao Chun sat down on his bed in advance, steadied his breathing, and pressed the injector against his arm. Hiss! In an instant, his head felt like it had been struck by lightning. Every cell in his body trembled, and for a moment it felt as if his mind might leave his body. After several minutes of pain, Zhao Chun's face slowly relaxed. His mouth opened slightly, his eyes narrowed, and a wave of relief washed over him. The sensation lasted for half a minute before he finally came back to himself, still savoring it. He clenched his fist and threw a punch. A faint afterimage flashed through the air. Then, looking around, Zhao Chun walked to the side of his bed and, with one hand, lifted the entire large bed effortlessly. Looking at himself in the mirror again, his eyes appeared more determined, his face seemed sharper, and the muscles on his abdomen were more defined. Just the right amount. If I used my current strength to kick old Chun back then, he probably wouldn't have survived, Zhao Chun muttered. He pulled his thoughts back and focused on the last reward from the mission. T2 Black Knight Class Light Interstellar Combat Mech. In this interstellar age, combat mechs had already become secondary weapons. Even so, they were still indispensable. Starships could fight in space, but what about capturing a planet? If the goal was only to wipe out the forces on a planet, a starship could simply bombard it from orbit. But if the mission was to take control of the planet while causing as little damage as possible, then combat mechs were essential. It was important to note that ground combat mechs and interstellar combat mechs, though under the same category, were two very different branches. The former were usually deployed with ground forces on planets. The latter, however, could fight in space and even board enemy starships during battle. Zhao Chen opened the data sheet for the interstellar mech. T2 Black Knight Class Light Interstellar Combat Mech. Type: Interstellar Combat Mech. Tech Level: T2. Armor Strength: 40 to 50 units. Cruising Speed: 10 star knots. Maximum Speed: 30 star knots. Height: 15.8 meters. Mass: 420 tons. Crew: 1 person. Weapons: 2 36-barrel Gatling-type laser cannons, 30 small missile units. 1 Black Knight lightsword. The mech's armor strength was already comparable to a T-1 starship, and its weapons could match a T-1 starship's firepower, with the added advantage of a close combat weapon. Its cruising speed was relatively slow, as expected from a mech rather than a starship. However, its short-term maximum speed could rival that of some T-2 starships. It might be a good idea to build and station some interstellar combat mechs in the starship hangars. They could be very useful for future missions on planetary surfaces, Zhao Chen thought to himself. After learning about the interstellar combat mechs, Zhao Chen glanced at his data interface. Host: Zhao Chen. Profession: Top Starship Engineer. Special Attributes: Fleet Luck Bonus, Eye of Insight Points, 2950 Mission Points, 20 Starships, 12 Warehouse, T3 Blizzard Class. Both mission points and system points had been added. Besides the 1,000 system points gained this time, there were also the monthly points from October and November for building starships, totaling 160 system points. Zhao Chen thought for a moment, then opened the T2 store upgrade page. T2 System Store Upgrade Requirements 1. Redeem 2 T2 level items, 2 halves, 2. Complete 2 sea-level system missions, February 2nd, 3. Spend 2,000 system points to upgrade the store, 2950/2000. All 3 conditions for upgrading the T2 store had been met. Confirm spending 2,000 system points to upgrade the T2 store to T3. 2,000 system points spent. T2 store upgraded to T3. Remaining system points: 950. Congratulations. You have unlocked the T3 series of the system store. You also receive 1 chance to redeem any item without using mission points. It was the same reward as before, but after browsing the T3 items, Zhao Chen found that the average price was around 6,000 system points. With his current balance, he could only look without buying. After that, Zhao Chen went with Charlotte to oversee the first trial run of the T2 Black Rhino class heavy ships. 10 T2 Black Rhinos formed a fleet and left the starport. Several hours later, they returned. The first trial run was a success. Next came the purchase of military supplies and daily necessities. Zhao Chen still had plenty of funds in his account. It wasn't enough to build more starships, but it was more than enough to support the 600 female soldiers under his command. At the same time, Zhao Chen specially prepared a banquet. This was probably his first New Year's celebration since arriving in this world. In the Starship Workshop, he cleared out a space, set up tables with abundant food and drinks, and played the most popular music of the moment. Some people were dancing, some were eating and drinking happily, and others were singing. This banquet must have cost quite a lot of star coins, Charlotte said, taking a sip of strong liquor of an unknown brand, glancing at Zhao Chen and Lilith beside her. Lilith replied, the total cost was 5,000 star coins. Charlotte shook her head. 5,000 star coins. Back when she was with the rebel fleet, that amount could have covered months of food supplies. And now, it was spent in just one night. It was truly extravagant. What's wrong? Feeling sorry for the money. Zhao Chen teased, looking at Charlotte. Charlotte didn't answer, but her expression said it all. Warriors of the Xiaolong fleet, tell me, are you happy? Zhao Chen suddenly shouted. Hearing their commander's voice, everyone responded loudly, happy. Zhao Chen smiled, raised his glass, and drank it all in one go. Then he said with a laugh, I, Zhao Chen, don't have any grand ambitions. I just don't want to let down my family's expectations. I want to build up the Xiaolong system and the Xiaolong fleet. I want those who follow me to live well, to live with dignity, and to live with hope. not just to survive like lifeless puppets. At the same time, we must have the strength to ensure that no one can bully us. Our dignity will always be protected within the range of our starships. Many of the female soldiers stopped what they were doing, their eyes filled with emotion as they looked at their commander. Some even had tears welling up. Next year at this time, I hope we can still drink together and dance under the moonlight. To our future. Zhao Chen raised his glass again. Lilith stepped forward, placed her hand over her chest, and said solemnly, "Under the stars and moon, we pledge to follow you. Under the stars and moon, we pledge to follow you." The soldiers echoed in unison. Zhao Chen tilted his head back and drained his glass once more. At that moment, the new year had arrived. System alert. Annual mission triggered. System alert. Quarterly mission triggered. The system missions had arrived. Zhao Chen found an excuse to leave the banquet and went to a quiet place. 2 system windows appeared before his eyes. Annual mission. The host must successfully graduate from the Northern Star Military Academy within 1 year. Within a year, he plans to graduate from the North Star Starship Military Academy. Currently, he is only a 4th-year student, and normally, he would need to wait more than 2 years to graduate. By the end of this year, he will at most become a 5th-year student. However, the rewards for quarterly missions are so generous that missing out on a yearly reward would be a real waste. It seems he needs to find a way to graduate early from the North Star Starship Military Academy. He also wants to prepare well and focus on building the Falcon Star system. Looking at another mission window, quarterly mission. Own 5 different models of T2 or higher starships, 3/5. Build a fleet of 30 starships, all T2 or higher, 12/30. Own 1 T3 starship, 0/1. System produced starship. This mission has many requirements. But the first 2 are not very difficult. He has already built 3 T2 starships, the Queen B-class heavy carrier, the Black Rhinoceros-class heavy combat, and the Hammer-class heavy industrial ship. He also has blueprints for a T2 Bronze Eden-class starship and a blueprint for a T3 Blizzard-class light starship cruiser. If needed, he can exchange for a T2 starship from the T2 shop, which is easy for him now. Building 30 starships with just the Black Rhinoceros in 2 months is also doable. The most important requirement is the third one, owning a T3 starship. He opens the blueprint for the T3 Blizzard-class starship stored in his system warehouse. To build this T3 Blizzard, the cost is at least 13 million stars. That's the cost of building 130 T2 Black Rhinoceros ships, or nearly 10 T2 Queen Bees. But he only has less than 120,000 stars left. There's a gap of about 10 times the needed amount. 3 months to make up this tenfold gap is quite challenging. Additionally, if the T2 Hammer is used to build the T3 Blizzard, all production capacity must be provided, which will take 2 months to complete. Only then can the construction be finished. Even at the best starport workshop, this process would take roughly the same amount of time. However, this T3 Blizzard cannot be built inside the Starship workshop at the starport because once it is completed and leaves the port, its external shape will reveal whether it is a T3 Starship or a previously unregistered T3 model. At that point, checking the starport's Starship rental records would expose Zhao Chen. Building a T2 Starship might not cause much trouble, but constructing an entirely new T3 Starship model will definitely attract unwanted attention to Zhao Chen. Although exposure is probably inevitable, delaying it as long as possible is better, giving Zhao Chen more time to prepare. The main challenges are the construction costs and time. These are the 2 big problems Zhao Chen faces. This quarter's mission is quite difficult, Zhao Chen muttered, feeling a bit upset about wasting the reward for not completing the mission. He closed his eyes and started planning and thinking. After a few seconds, Zhao Chen opened his eyes. He already had a series of construction plans. First, he would use the T2 Hammer No. 1 to expand a T2 Hammer ship, which would take 1 month. In the second month, the T2 Hammer No. 1 would begin building the T3 Blizzard, which would take 2 months to finish. At the same time, in the second month, the T2 Hammer No. 2 would start building a T2 Bronze Eden, which could be completed in less than a month. Although this support starship is expensive, it doesn't take long to build. In the third month, the T2 Hammer No. 2 would work at full capacity to build many T2 Black Rhinos or other T2 starships that can be completed within the time limit, meeting the goal of 30 starships for the quarter. Time-wise, there's no big problem. The real issue is the raw material shortage. Considering all the costs for building these starships, it will total around 20 million star coins, Zhao Chun said, covering his face. With this calculation, the funding gap becomes even larger. Where will he get the money? Forget it, the Xianglong star system is still a mess. So, he can only look for external funding. Zhao Chun thought of Liyaki. Trading weapons was the fastest way to make money. Earlier, he urgently needed funds and sold the technical drawings of a T1 Wolf Lice-class medium starship at a very low price. At that time, he chose a full buyout because he had no other options. If he had sold only the licensing rights or agency rights, the quick cash would not have been so high, and he couldn't get everything in one step. So, he had to buy everything outright to make quick money. But this time, Zhao Chun had no such plan. With the trust established with Liyaki over the T1 Wolf Lice starship technology, he wanted to make a big deal with Li Wei's sister this time. He had already thought out everything in his mind. Later, Zhao Chun returned to the dinner party, enjoying the rare leisure of the New Year's Eve celebration. On the first day of the galactic calendar year 3031, the Dragon Falcon fleet officially set sail, with 13 starships moving together out of the Arctic Fox starport, heading toward distant star regions. Zhao Chun watched the fleet, which was traveling in a carrier battle formation, and thought, this is a real fleet with carrier starships. Before, it was just a mismatched assembly of starships, with a T2 Queen Bee, hardly a fleet. Now, 10 T2 Black Rhinoceros escorts surrounded the fleet, with the number 0 Blizzard nearby the T2 Queen Bee. This way, they could respond to any threats at any time. Report. We have left the restricted area of the Arctic Fox starport for faster-than-light travel, Lily's voice came through. Zhao Chun sat in the captain's chair and ordered, all ships, prepare for faster-than-light travel. Target, the Stargate of the Arctic Fox star system. Using the Stargate of the Arctic Fox star system, they would reach the Northern Star system and then return to the Northern Star Military Academy. After 6 months, Zhao Chun was finally returning to school. Having a Stargate available made travel much faster. It used to take nearly half a month to go from the Dragon Falcon star system to the Arctic Fox star system. Now, it only took a few hours to go from the Arctic Fox star system to the Northern Star system. The Queen Bee intelligence system reminded him that the ship had exited faster-than-light travel mode and had arrived at the planned location. It was now in autopilot mode. Zhao Chun woke up immediately, and Lilith also ordered the crew to return to their battle stations right away. Report. All starships in the fleet have arrived safely. Please give your instructions, Lilith reported to Zhao Chun. Zhao Chun raised his hand and opened the star map of the Northern Star Galaxy. They were still far from the Northern Star Military Academy, but if they used the faster-than-light engine, it would only take a few minutes. They chose this place because Zhao Chun needed to settle his dragon fleet first. He didn't plan to bring all 13 starships directly to the Academy. That would be too showy. This part of the galaxy is quite remote and rarely visited by ships. Let Charlotte find a good place to station the fleet, Zhao Chun said, giving the task to Charlotte. Charlotte used to be a general of the Beast Rebel Army, so she was very familiar with choosing hidden locations. Soon, Charlotte picked a spot between 3 small planets that reflected each other, using the blind spots in the view to hide their presence. Unless a starship happened to pass by, it would be hard to find this fleet here. Charlotte, I will take 1 T2 Black Rhinoceros-class starship and the number 0 Blizzard back to the Academy. The T2 Queen Bee-class heavy carrier and the remaining 9 T2 Black Rhinoceros ships, along with the T2 Hammer-class heavy industrial ships, will stay here. You are responsible for guarding this place and ensuring the fleet's safety. Also, supervise the construction of the T2 Hammer ships, using our existing raw materials, and build 1 more T2 Hammer, Zhao Chun instructed. Before leaving the Arctic Fox starport, Zhao Chun exchanged all 1.2 million stars coins for supplies, military materials, and raw materials. The raw materials were stored inside the T2 Hammer. The supplies could support all the female soldiers on the ships for 3 months. Without considering supplies, these ships could survive in space for decades as long as they didn't go on long voyages or engage in battles, thanks to their ample energy. Yes, Charlotte replied, accepting the orders. While I am away, Report any intelligence to me immediately. Keep communication open 24 hours a day, Zhao Chun reminded. Afterward, Zhao Chun switched ships to Charlotte's vessel. He traveled on the Zero Storm and took a T2 Black Rhinoceros back to the Academy. The distance between the two places is actually not far. In an emergency, with the warp drive, including the acceleration and deceleration time of the ships, they can arrive in just 15 minutes. Soon, the Zero Storm and T2 Black Rhinoceros arrived at the outer space of the Northern Star Military Academy. Zhao Chun applied for and rented a starship dock, which could hold 2 ships, one large and one small. Is this your Starship Academy, Commander? Lily looked at the beautiful interstellar city in front of her and said with some envy. Once, their demon kingdom also had such beautiful buildings. Tell the crew to stand by on the starship. You come with me, Zhao Chun said. Me with you? Lily looked nervous. She still felt a bit shy about the outside world. For decades before, she and her people had been fleeing and hiding in dark corners. Even recently, she joined the Dragon Fleet, but only because she was in a closed environment and could gradually get used to it. Now, being taken to an outside social environment made her nervous. Yes, Zhao Chun replied. I will stay on the starship. Just wait for you. If you need anything, you can contact me anytime, Lily whispered. Zhao Chun looked at Lily. This is an order. He knew Lily had psychological barriers, but as the secretary of the Dragon Fleet, she had to overcome them. That's why he asked her to come with him, to help her grow. Yes, Lily answered shyly. You can wear a daily uniform that covers your figure, hiding your tail, wings, and horns, Zhao Chun said. During the previous shopping for supplies, besides the fleet's military uniforms, they also bought some casual clothes for each female soldier. Lily felt happy inside. Although it only covered part of her, it made her feel a bit safer. After both ships were docked, Zhao Chun led Lily out of the starship. Zhao Chun had already changed into the academy uniform, while Lilith was dressed in a dress with a fluffy skirt that covered her tail. The layered back of her outfit concealed her wings. She wore a slightly large hat on her head, which hid her horns. Zhao Chun looked her over. She seemed like a shy, ordinary girl, but if you saw her face, both men and women would probably be attracted to her. After all, she was a charm demon. The first thing Zhao Chun did after returning to the academy was to tell Li Wei and Zhao Wan'er that he was back. He also sent a message request to Zhao Wan'er, but she surprisingly rejected it. Does she have something important to do? Zhao Chun wondered. Oh well, there's no rush. When Zhao Wan'er sees the message, she will reply naturally. Zhao Chun put his hands in his pockets and started wandering around the academy with Lilith. Lilith, shy and timid, followed close to Zhao Chun. At first, she didn't even lift her head and was holding onto his clothes. As she became more familiar with her surroundings, she started to carefully look at the buildings and people around her. Zhao Chun was thinking about an important matter now. The annual task requires him to graduate within a year. That means he must level up quickly, even jumping 3 levels in 1 year. It's easier if you're in the 1st or 2nd year, but for 4th, 5th, or 6th year students, it's quite difficult. Maybe I should ask Wan'er. She probably knows how to level up smoothly and quickly, Zhao Chun muttered. At that moment, Zhao Chun noticed a holographic model of a starship in a display case nearby. He was very familiar with this starship. It was the T1 Wolf Lice-class medium interstellar destroyer. There was a big sign below it. Most popular T1 starship. Only 2 months since release. Over 500 pre-orders already. Zhao Chun stopped and looked at the news on the display. He could also hear some students passing by, talking about the T1 Wolf Lice-class medium starship. It was clear that, although it was a T1 starship, this model was very popular. Sales of the T1 Wolf Lice are really hot right now. I heard that if you order one now, you'll have to wait half a year to get it. Yes, I heard many lords are ordering this starship. Each one costs only 30,000 star coins, which is very affordable. It is said that this starship might become the best-selling T1 starship of 3031 and could even break previous sales records. Zhao Chun listened to these words and looked at the promotional ad below the holographic projection, which even included Li Yaqi speaking herself. T1 Wolf Flea, the most cost-effective T1 starship. Please follow Bayan Starship Technology Group, dedicated to providing you with the best starships. It seems that during the months Zhao Chun handed over the T1 Wolf Flea to Li Yaqi, she successfully promoted it. This was expected by Zhao Chun. The T1 starship is the most cost-effective combat starship in his T1 online store, so it is bound to sell well. It only costs about 10,000 star coins to produce. Now, Liaki is selling it for 30,000 star coins. Even after including advertising, operation, and labor costs, the profit per ship is between 10,000 and 15,000 star coins. If the order volume reaches 500 ships, then fulfilling these orders could earn Liaki nearly 6 to 7 million star coins. Compared to the 3 million star coins Zhao Chun received, this amount is double. But this depends on building and delivering 500 T1 wolf fleas, which is the predicted total profit for Liaki in the next half year. At that time, Zhao Chun didn't have the luxury of waiting that long. Only by buying out could he get 3 million star coins at once. Thinking about it now, maybe offering 4 million star coins would get Liaki to agree. Forget it, forget it. No need to think about the past, Zhao Chun said, covering his face, feeling helpless. But this time, he was already prepared to meet with Liaki, and it would be a big move. While Zhao Chun was thinking about these things, his handheld terminal buzzed. It was a message from Li Wei. Zhao Chun, come quickly. Your sister is being bullied. Zhao Chun's eyes changed slightly. He took Lily with him and headed to the address Li Wei sent. It was a Starship Duel Arena. Number 1 Starship Simulation Duel Arena. In the arena, a heavily damaged ship was being slowly towed away by an interstellar barge. The ship was a T2 Fire Raven class heavy starship cruiser, with one part of its hull still smoking. At the same time, several shuttles were transporting crew members out of the ship. Nearby, in the arbitration zone, Zhao Wanner, who had just come down from a shuttle, looked angrily at the people across from her. Opposite her were a group of people wearing different uniforms from those of the Northern Star Starship Military Academy. What's wrong? Can't the people from the Northern Star Starship Military Academy accept losing? One of them sneered. We won honestly. If you want to blame someone, blame your own lack of skill, another added. That's all there is to the Northern Star Starship Military Academy. Even the genius girl was defeated by us, someone else mocked. They stood there, insulting and sneering, while a proud girl with wavy brown hair and twin ponytails stood among them. A young girl with twin ponytails, Shui Xiao Xiao, jumped out angrily, pointing at the proud girl and shouting, "You're so mean. We already admitted defeat, so why do you keep attacking? And you, arbitrator, didn't you see?" The arbitrators, who had been scolded by Shui Xiao Xiao, looked away nervously. These arbitrators were not from the Northern Star Starship Military Academy, and they were afraid of the noble young men. Their ancestors came from the Tianyao Noble Starship Military Academy. Students there were either rich or noble. They couldn't afford trouble. The proud girl spread her arms and sneered. I couldn't stop it in time. Who would have thought your T2 Fire Raven class heavy starship cruiser was so fragile? I didn't notice. I apologized to my classmates from the Northern Star Starship Military Academy. Although she said this with an apology, her face still showed a mocking expression. At that moment, a shuttle docked, and several injured crew members were carried out. They were covered in blood, and one of them was unconscious. How are my crew members? Zhao Wanner, unable to argue further, hurried to check on her crew. The medic accompanying her said, one seriously injured, but given a stimulant shot, no life danger. The other 7 have minor injuries and will recover in a few days. Zhao Wanner looked at the seriously injured crew member. She recognized her as her junior. When she first recruited her, the younger girl said she was her idol and really wanted to join her starship. They got along quite well in private. But now, she never expected the girl to become like this. She felt guilty, angry, and full of self-blame. She glared angrily at the woman opposite her. Wow, your stare is really scary. She's just a civilian. So what if she dies? Nothing special about that. Your North Star Starship Military Academy is really something, still recruiting civilians. Unlike our Tianyao Noble Starship Military Academy, which only recruits noble students. As for crew members, we just recruit retired soldiers from the Empire Army. Forget it. I'll cover the medical expenses for your crew later, the woman said with a smile, covering her mouth. You're not allowed to insult my crew, Zhao Wanner shouted at the woman. The woman's smile disappeared, and she looked at Zhao Wanner with cold sarcasm. So what if I insult them? If you've got the guts, come fight me. I'll duel you on the starship, and I'll fight to the end. But remember, your crew might get hurt or worse. Don't come crying. Zhao Wanner wanted revenge, but she didn't have a starship right now. Her crew was also injured. She felt deep frustration and helplessness inside. At this moment, she even thought of her brother, whom she used to think was useless. If he were here, want to fight? Then keep fighting. Our Zhao family will stand firm. A voice suddenly sounded, drawing everyone's attention. Zhao Wanner trembled and looked excitedly toward the voice. She saw a familiar figure. She used to dislike this person, but now, seeing this figure, she felt a strange sense of safety. Tears welled up in her eyes, overwhelmed with sadness. Zhao Chun, with his hands in his pockets, walked over to Zhao Wanner. He didn't try to comfort her. Instead, he asked, "Are you crying?" "You're the one crying." Zhao Wanner turned her head quickly and wiped away her tears. "If you're not crying, then go fight that ugly woman again." Zhao Chen's words directly angered the woman with big waves of hair. "Who is this disgusting loser daring to insult me?" The girl with big wavy hair angrily glared at Zhao Chun. How dare he call her a? At that moment, one of the other big-haired girl's admirers saw an opportunity to show off. He thought this was a rare chance to impress. He walked toward Zhao Chun. "How dare you be rude to Miss Zhou Min? Watch me tear your mouth apart." He swung his fist toward Zhao Chen's face. Everyone nearby, including Xue Xiao and others, was shocked. They couldn't believe students from the Tianyao Noble Starship Military Academy could be so arrogant. Not only did they break rules during starship battles, but now they even started fighting. Zhao Chun faced the incoming punch. His hand moved faster than the punch, grabbing the other's fist and twisting it. "Ah!" The man cried out in pain and knelt on the ground. Zhao Chun then kicked him in the face, sending him flying backward. Coincidentally, he slid under the big-haired girl's skirt, but he was already unconscious. He missed the chance to see her skirt from below. "That looks like Zhao Wanner's brother, Zhao Chun. Isn't that the guy who fought in the starship duel last semester? He beat his opponent when no one expected it. Wow, how is Zhao Chun so skilled? Have you guys noticed? Zhao Chun is pretty handsome." Some students from the Beiji Starship Military Academy recognized Zhao Chun, while others had only heard about him. But now, Zhao Chun was punching students from another school right away. It felt so satisfying. Recently, the students from Beiji Starship had been annoyed with the students from Tianyao Academy. Good fight. I hope you also teach that annoying girl a lesson. The girl with twin ponytails, Xue Xiao, jumped next to Zhao Chun, acting like she wasn't afraid of trouble. The noble girl named Zhou Min was also frightened by Zhao Chen's rough behavior. She instinctively took a few steps back. Zhao Chen ignored her and looked back at Zhao Wanner. "Your problems are your own. Handle them yourself. Our Zhao family will get back at anyone who humiliates us." Zhao Wanner pointed at the distant T2 Fire Crow-class heavy starship being dragged away from the starship duel arena and said with a sad face, "But my starship was badly damaged, and some crew members are hurt." Zhao Chen asked, "Are you just worried about the shame of losing her to you?" Zhao Wanner nodded heavily. Her eyes filled with frustration and anger. She accepted that she lost the starship duel. But after she surrendered, the other side still attacked her starship, causing her crew to get hurt. She couldn't stand that. "I want to fight again." Zhao Wanner gritted her teeth and shouted. "Challenge her again. I'll arrange the starship," Zhao Chen said. Hearing Zhao Chun, Zhao Wanner didn't know what plans he had, but she felt more confident inside. She took a deep breath and walked straight to Zhou Min, pointing at her. "Zhou Min, I challenge you to a duel again. You decide the time. Do you dare to accept?" Zhou Min was amused and angry at the same time. She said, "Sure, not another day. Anyway, my starship wasn't really affected. Once I finish refueling, in half an hour, we'll have another fight. Deal?" Zhao Wanner agreed. At that moment, the spectators moved aside, and a few people who looked like instructors entered. "What's going on? I heard someone is fighting here." A sharp-voiced woman quickly approached and saw her own students lying on the ground. She immediately pointed angrily at the male instructor from the North Star Academy nearby, Vice Dean Hong. "What's going on with North Star? My student was just standing here peacefully, and your students beat her up. You owe me an explanation. We came here for academic exchange, and this is how you treat guests." Vice Dean Hong looked surprised. He tried to calm her down. "Vice Dean Jia, calm down first. Let's understand what happened." Soon, students from both sides started shouting and insulting each other. They can't accept losing from North Star Academy and are fighting. Nonsense. It was clearly their students from Tianyao Academy who cheated during the starship duel. They already surrendered but still fired, causing injuries and insulting us as civilians. What's wrong with calling you civilians? Civilians should just stay quietly on their planet. Why do you come out to operate starships? You're not qualified. Soon, the two vice presidents understood the full story. Vice President Hong's expression started to look a bit unfriendly. He looked at Vice President Jia and said, Vice President Jia, it seems this matter has a reason behind it. Both sides are responsible. Let's just leave it at that. Vice President Hong, are you trying to protect your people? Vice President Jia, who was used to being arrogant, responded bluntly. You, the troublemaker, with your aggressive attitude these days, people might think you're the dean. Since you're a guest, I've been respectful to you. But now you're really pushing your luck. Hong secretly cursed inside but kept a faint smile on his face. If we want to be precise, the cause of this incident is clear. Your students disobeyed the rules. After one side surrendered and stopped fighting, they still fired. These rules about starship duels are taught in the first year. Didn't your academy teach that? His words carried a sharp tone. Jia's face darkened. Vice President Jia, the students from the Northern Star just said they want to fight again, Zhou Min said, walking over with a cold smile, looking at Zhao Wanner. Since there's a conflict, and we're all starship military students, why not settle it with a starship battle? She believed she could beat this woman once, and she could beat her again. I'll fight to the end. Zhao Wanner glared angrily at her. For some reason, she felt confident now. All right, Vice President Hong, how about we handle it this way? As for what just happened, let's not talk about it, Jia said with a slightly cold smile, looking at Hong. He wasn't so arrogant earlier. Fine, I'll let my students defeat your talented student again, right in front of you. Let's see if the Northern Star can still keep its face. Hong hesitated a little. He looked at Zhao Wanner, knowing she was a hard-working and talented student. If she lost twice in a row, it could leave a psychological shadow, which would be a big loss. I think maybe we should. Hong wanted to make an excuse. But Zhao Wanner interrupted him firmly. Vice President Hong, I want to fight. Please respect my decision. Vice Dean Hong frowned and walked up to Zhao Wanner. Zhao Wanner, your starship is damaged and crew members are hurt. How can you fight now? Let's just forget it this time. I have a starship. I want to fight, Zhao Wanner stubbornly said. At this moment, Zhao Chen approached and said, Vice Dean Hong, matters between women should be handled by women themselves. Then, Zhao Chen gave Lily, standing behind him, a look and whispered, Take Wanner to Heisia. Yes. Lily went to Zhao Wanner, and the two of them left together. Seeing this, Zhou Min sneered and said, Since you still want to embarrass yourself, I'll help you. I hope this time your starship can handle the fight. After speaking, she turned back and headed toward her own docked starship, ready for the next battle. Ha ha ha. Li Wei gasped for breath as he pushed through the crowd and ran in. He saw Zhao Chen. Old Zhao, I thought you came in through entrance A, which is why I waited for you there for so long. I tell you, those people from the Tian Yao Noble Starship Military Academy are really arrogant. As Li Wei spoke, he suddenly noticed the two vice deans present. He quickly cleared his throat, pretending to look away and not say anything, quietly moving closer to Zhao Chen. Where's your sister? I saw her starship earlier. She went to prepare for the next duel, Zhao Chen replied. Next duel? Li Wei was surprised. Xue Xiao beside them said, You didn't see? Wanner's brother was amazing earlier. He directly confronted that rude woman and even beat up her bodyguard. Now, Wanner's brother is letting Wanner pilot his starship for another fight. Is that the number 0 Blizzard starship? Li Wei asked excitedly. Not the number 0 Blizzard, Zhao Chen said. Then what starship is it? Xue Xiao looked a little disappointed, but still curious. You'll see later, Zhao Chen replied. Then he asked, Where is Sister Sulan? She was with you all, right? It seems like the other side is deliberately targeting you. Is there some conflict? Senior Sister Sulan is currently attending an exchange event between Beiji Star Academy and Tianyao Academy. She is now a 6th grade student representative, and teachers usually take her to such events. Xue Xiao explained this, then began to complain about Zhao Wanner. It's all that spoiled girl's own fault. She can't control her man and is taking her anger out on us. Then Xue Xiao carefully recounted what happened. It turns out that Tianyao Academy visited Beiji Star Academy a week ago, and they are having a 2-week academic discussion and school exchange. During this time, outstanding students from different grades also exchange ideas. Girls like Zhao Wan'er and Xue Xiaoxiao, who are considered the most beautiful students, naturally become the focus of attention. During this period, a noble student from Tianyao Academy kept coming to see Zhao Wan'er. Everyone knew his intentions. Zhao Wan'er refused each time, firmly telling him not to bother her anymore. But every day, this Tianyao boy still arranged for people to bring delicious natural food and gifts, even promising that if Zhao Wan'er agreed to be his girlfriend, he would give her a T3 starship. T3 starship? That's quite a big gesture for dating, Zhao Chen said, surprised. A T3 starship costs around 10 million star coins, and its market price can be several 100 million star coins. Using such a big temptation to win someone over, most girls probably wouldn't resist. I think he's just a. First, he uses these sweet words to win your heart. Then when he's tired of playing, he kicks you aside. I even had my sisters investigate this Tianyao guy, and it's exactly like that. He's played with countless girls. There are even rumors that during his time at our academy, he's already been involved with several girls romantically. And it's a pity that that girl Zhou Min is so infatuated with him. They really are a perfect match, Xue Xiaoxiao said with disdain and disgust. Li Wei added from the side, but the reason so many girls fall for him is because of his status. He is Feng Xiaowei, the second son of the Hurricane Group. The Hurricane Group is a rising business empire in the Starry Empire, now very popular. They have large interests in grain trade, galaxy transportation, and especially starship technology. Over the past 10 years, the most popular T2 Hyena-class medium starship was launched by their corporation. Since its release, over 100,000 units have been produced and sold. Rumors say that just this starship has made the Hurricane Corporation billions of star coins in profit over the years. It was because of the T2 Hyena that the Hurricane Corporation went from an unknown star company to a major empire. A young heir from such a big company. If he offers you a T3 starship, even the most devoted fans would be willing to try. If they really managed to earn a T3 starship. Li Wei stopped here, knowing everyone understood what he meant. When Li Wei mentioned the T2 Hyena earlier, he looked a bit uncomfortable because he had bought one himself. That man didn't come? Zhao Chen glanced around. If the young master was here, he would probably be the focus of everyone's attention. Xue Xiaoxiao crossed her arms and snorted coldly. That spoiled kid is good at minding his own business. He never gets involved in fights over women. It would take some time for the two starships to finish preparing and enter the scene. Xue Xiaoxiao, Li Wei, I have a question for you. Do you know how to skip grades quickly? Zhao Chen took this chance to ask about the possibility of jumping levels. Skipping grades? Xue Xiaoxiao looked at Zhao Chen in surprise. She didn't know why he was asking, but because of the number 0 snowstorm cannon, she had a good impression of him. Still, she replied, I'm not really sure. Our school's grading system is simple. As long as you earn enough assessment credits for each grade, you've completed that grade's requirements. Then, you can be promoted to the next grade in the next semester. If you can earn 3 times the required credits for your current grade within the school year, you can skip directly to the next grade. But if you don't meet the credit standards after skipping, you'll have to repeat the grade. A voice spoke from nearby. Zhao Chen looked over and saw Vice Dean Hong, who had appeared earlier. Is there a limit to how many times you can skip grades in one school year? For example, jumping from 1st to 3rd grade directly, Zhao Chen asked. Vice Dean Hong was momentarily stunned. He said, in theory, there are no such restrictions, but the original grade assessments are already quite difficult. You also need to accumulate 3 times the required credits for your grade, jump 2 levels within the same academic year, and ensure you won't be held back. This has never happened in the history of our Beiji Star College. Most students only skip a grade once and then smoothly meet the credit requirements for that new grade. To avoid being held back, students can advance to the next grade in the following semester. Zhao Chen roughly understood the situation. Zhao Chen, why are you suddenly asking about this? Vice Dean Hong asked curiously. Zhao Chen smiled and said, it's nothing. I'm just curious about how my sister skipped a grade. I see. Your sister's talent is truly remarkable. With more training and practical experience, she will definitely become an excellent fleet commander, Vice Dean Hong said, emphasizing the role of a fleet commander, not a ship captain. This shows the college highly values Zhao Weiner's talent. By the way, Zhao Chen's talent isn't bad either. Unfortunately, he chose the wrong major. He managed to assemble 3 old starships into a new one and even defeated a T-2 White Eagle-class light interstellar cruiser. That's quite impressive. If Zhao Chun is willing, I can help you switch your major to Starship Engineering Technology, suggested Vice Dean Hong. I am more interested in piloting and commanding starships. Zhao Chun declined the offer. Half an hour quickly passed. A starship battleship slowly entered the starship duel arena. Everyone was watching this starship battleship. Vice Dean Hong spoke beside him. The T-2 Purple Rose-class medium starship battleship is a recent development by the Hurricane Consortium, released a few years ago. Although it's a medium-sized starship, its firepower and armor are comparable to heavy starships of the same class. In previous duels, the T-2 Fire Crow-class heavy starship was also a peer of this class, but there was a big performance gap. As far as I know, the T-2 Purple Rose costs up to 11 million star coins. Oh my goodness, that price is enough to buy a T-2 interstellar battleship or a T-2 carrier starship. Li Wei was startled. Vice Dean Hong chuckled and shook his head, saying, "This is a starship built entirely on wealth, so its value for money is very low. Not many people actually buy this kind of starship. But because of its beautiful design, it is a symbol of noble young ladies. So usually only these wealthy young ladies are willing to buy such an expensive but low-value starship with good looks. You should know that Zhao Weiner's T-2 Fire Raven costs less than 8 million stars, almost 50% cheaper." Looking at the footage from the drone broadcast, the shape of the T-2 Purple Rose is indeed very beautiful, with rose patterns carved into the armor of the ship. At first glance, it looks like a piece of art. But when facing Zhao Chen's Zero Storm, the odds are still in Zero Storm's favor. Vice Dean Hong was speaking. In the broadcast of the duel arena, a very tiny round starship appeared before everyone's eyes. What starship is that? How did it violate the rules by entering the duel arena without permission? Vice Dean Hong frowned, unhappy with this management oversight. "That's the starship my sister is piloting," Zhao Chen suddenly said, causing a wave of surprise. Shui Xiao and Li Wei stared blankly at Zhao Chen. Vice Dean Hong was stunned for a moment, then said in surprise, "Zhao Chen, if I'm not mistaken, that should be a star interstellar ship, right? T-2 Black Rhinoceros class interstellar heavy ship." Zhao Chen named the starship. But others didn't care what kind of rhinoceros it was. They only knew it was an interstellar ship. Haha. Look, that's the starship from the Northern Star Military Academy. And it's actually an interstellar ship. One interstellar ship fighting a star battleship cruiser. Are the students of Northern Star crazy? If you don't want to win, just say so. Forcing yourself to fight is just asking for humiliation. It's hilarious. Seeing this scene, students from the Tianyao Noble Starship Military Academy burst into laughter, insulting students from the Northern Star Starship Military Academy, especially targeting Zhao Chun. But they only dared to shout from afar, since the main character had just dared to hit someone directly. The students from the Northern Starship Military Academy looked very upset, with grim faces. They looked at Zhao Chun in disbelief. They thought Zhao Chun had sent his sister into battle with the intention of using that Zero Storm ship. But it turned out that a T-2 Interstellar was the one to go into action. "Zhao Chun, you," Li Wei swallowed hard. He didn't know how to advise his friend. Since the Zero Storm ship, Zhao Chen's actions had been unpredictable. "Just watch," Zhao Chen said, crossing his arms with a slight smile. He had planned to use the T-2 Black Rhinoceros from the start. He had checked the opponent's starship records on the way here. He knew it was a T-2 Purple Rose and understood its weapon systems. The main weapons were 10 T-2 dual-mounted 200mm medium magnetic railguns, firing every 30 seconds. Magnetic railguns are non-ballistic weapons that use electromagnetic technology to accelerate metal projectiles. They fire very quickly and are highly accurate within their effective range. But since they lack guidance, their accuracy drops sharply at maximum range. Therefore, ships equipped with such weapons need to stay relatively close to their enemies during battle. These weapons are usually found on interstellar cruisers and escorts. The T-2 Purple Rose's magnetic railguns are quite powerful against typical T-2 starships, especially since it cost 11 million stars to build. But unfortunately for it, this time it faced the T-2 Black Rhinoceros. Even if all attacks hit one part of the armor, it would take about 20 minutes of precise firing to cause serious damage. Whether or not such a coincidence exists, the T2 Black Rhinoceros wouldn't give it 20 minutes. Right now, the T2 Purple Rose and T2 Black Rhinoceros quickly moved into their battle positions. Comparing their sizes was like a small fish versus a big fish. The captain of the T2 Purple Rose was 310 meters long, but what about the T2 Black Rhinoceros? It was only 110 meters, with a semi-elliptical, rhino-shaped hull. This small ship is not even as good as the main cannon of the Zero Storm, Xiao Xiao muttered nearby, clearly dissatisfied. She was disappointed because she didn't see her favorite cannon and was stuck with such a tiny vessel. Zhao Chen said beside her, sometimes bigger isn't always better. Being tough is also important. The Arbiter explained the duel rules as usual, then ordered the two starships to go to random spawn points to prepare for the upcoming battle. The video communication was still connected. Zhou Min burst into laughter, pointing at Zhao Wanner across from her, mocking, "Zhao Wanner, are you trying to make me laugh to death and win this duel? If so, congratulations. You're almost there. Using an interstellar patrol ship to fight a battleship. Really impressive." Zhao Wanner remained calm and said, "Hope you can still laugh later." The video call was cut off. Zhou Min sneered, "A patrol ship still wants to show off? Just wait and see how I your ship to bits." Everyone in the audience was waiting for the duel to start, but it was clear that emotions were divided. Students from Tianyao Academy looked very happy, as if they were watching a comedy. Meanwhile, some students from Beiji Star Academy had already left the scene. They couldn't imagine what would happen if a patrol ship fought a battleship. Maybe the patrol ship's armor was strong enough to withstand a few rounds of enemy fire. But what about its firepower? The firepower of a patrol ship is generally considered the lowest among all ship types. And such a small starship, how many weapon modules can it carry? How can it fight a battleship? With those pathetic close-in weapons? Stop joking. Using a patrol ship to fight a battleship, that's your school's education? Truly astonishing, Vice Dean Jia said bluntly, mocking Vice Dean Hong with a look of anticipation. Vice Dean Hong also felt uncertain inside. He glanced at Zhao Chun, who remained expressionless nearby. Normally, Zhao Chun shouldn't be the kind of person who underestimates himself, but using an interstellar ship to fight an interstellar battleship cruiser. This doesn't appear in any textbook battle plan. Academic exchange. Just an academic exchange, Vice Dean Hong could only silently say. Soon, both starships arrived at the launch point. At the moment the Arbiter announced the start of the battle, both ships headed straight toward the enemy detected on the radar without any detours. T2 Black Rhinoceros class interstellar heavy ship. Bridge. I can't wait to see that woman's expression. Get all the guns ready. Zhao Wanner sat in the captain's chair, filled with suppressed anger. Secretary Lilith and another former captain of this T2 Black Rhinoceros stood on either side. Miss Wanner, I think this time we might not need to fire, Lilith said. Zhao Wanner was surprised and looked at Lilith with confusion. Not firing? How will we win then? Among all the test projects for the T2 Black Rhinoceros, there's one that we haven't had a chance to try before. I think we could try it in this battle, Lilith said, a sly look flashing in her eyes. What test? Zhao Wanner asked. Lilith replied, a real combat collision test of the ship's body. Zhao Wanner was surprised, then understood and showed a slightly mischievous smile. After a few minutes of sailing, the two starships were about to enter each other's firing range. T2 Purple Rose class medium interstellar battleship, bridge, target the enemy ship with a magnetic railgun. Zhou Min immediately prepared to give a lesson. Using a ship to fight her battleship cruiser was truly overestimating oneself. Report, 10 magnetic railguns are charged and ready to fire at any moment. The deputy captain reported. Zhou Ming stared at the radar, sneering, let them get a little closer. Fire in 1 minute. Everyone watched the live battlefield footage, where one large and one small starship approached each other. Soon, they saw the T2 Purple Rose class medium interstellar battleship take the lead in attacking. 10 T2, level twin 200mm medium magnetic railguns fired. 20 metal shells shot out very quickly and hit the starship. The shells struck the armor of the T2 Black Rhinoceros class starship, causing explosions and lots of smoke, which temporarily covered the small ship that was only 100 meters long. Students from the Northern Star Academy started to worry about the talented student Zhao Wan'er, who was quite popular among them. Shui Xiaoxiao also tightly clutched Zhao Chen's sleeve, clearly worried about her close friend. A few seconds later, a small figure rushed out of the smoke. Almost at the same moment, everyone stood up and stared in shock at the small ship. How? How is this possible? Vice Dean Jia looked completely stunned. Others also whispered in surprise. The starship had no obvious damage at all. Maybe if they looked carefully, they would see some paint scratches, but on the live broadcast, it looked exactly the same as before the attack, with no change. The T2 Black Rhinoceros was still heading toward the T2 Purple Rose-class medium starship, and they were getting closer. How can it have no damage at all? Keep firing. Keep firing. Use armor-piercing shells. Zhou Min was starting to panic. After the second round of firing, everyone held their breath and stared at the smoke. A few seconds later, it was still that starship. It appeared again, completely intact. Oh my gosh! What kind of armor does that ship have? It withstood 2 rounds of fire from the T2 Purple Rose without a scratch. Could it be a T3 level starship? Is this really the starship we learned about in our textbooks? All the students found it hard to believe. Meanwhile, the students from Northern Star Academy were excited, while those from Tianyao Military Academy looked stunned and speechless. Wow, it has no damage at all. Zhao Chun, what kind of starship is this? Li Wei stared at Zhao Chun in amazement. Shui Xiaoxiao also looked at him curiously. It's just a sturdy starship, Zhao Chun said casually. Li Wei and Shui Xiaoxiao both rolled their eyes. Is that what you call tough? With this armor strength, it could probably withstand a few hits from a giant cannon on an interstellar battleship, Shui Xiaoxiao whispered nearby. Next, the T2 Purple Rose-class medium interstellar battleship began its 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds of attack. Finally, during the 5th round, the audience, watching the live broadcast, zoomed in on the left side armor of the T2 Black Rhinoceros and saw a damage area several centimeters deep and about a few dozen centimeters long. Even if it's very strong, what does it matter? A small interstellar ship's firepower can't really damage the T2 Purple Rose, and a small ship's speed might not even catch up with the T2 Purple Rose, Vice Dean Jia said, trying to sound confident. Yes, you're right. You're the Vice Dean of Tianyao Academy, so your words carry weight, Vice Dean Hong said with a flattering smile, trying to flatter him. This clearly was a subtle tease. Vice Dean Jia looked angry but said nothing, only using these excuses to convince himself that there was still hope in this battle. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the T2 Purple Rose also sensed something was wrong. It started trying to keep its distance from the T2 Black Rhinoceros while continuing to fire. Zhou Min didn't believe that, under constant heavy fire, this T2 interstellar ship could really hold out. T2 Black Rhinoceros-class heavy armored ship, Bridge. The front armor of the ship has suffered 6% overall damage, with the most damaged area at 12%. The side armor has suffered 3% damage, reported the ship's captain to Zhao Wan'er. Zhao Wan'er looked at the distance between the two ships on the star map. She had already checked the T2 Black Rhinoceros's capabilities before. Close enough. Send my orders. Prepare to activate short-range mode. All crew members, get ready for impact, Zhao Wan'er said seriously. Yes, the captain began relaying the orders. Because the T2 Black Rhinoceros was designed to withstand heavy attacks and even collisions, each combat station was equipped with measures to help soldiers stay balanced and avoid injuries from impacts. Short-range attack mode activated. Speed increasing, the captain said. The red numbers indicating speed suddenly started to rise quickly. Everyone watching the two starships suddenly gasped. Oh my goodness. Look. That starship seems to be speeding up. This speed is way too fast, much faster than before. Wait, this speed, this direction. Could it be that this starship is about to crash into T2 Purple Rose? All the students had this shocking thought. A starship crashing into a battleship? Zhao Chun smiled slightly, taking this chance to test the collision resistance of the T2 Black Rhinoceros. The rapidly accelerating T2 Black Rhinoceros aimed one of its front corner modules at the side of the distant T2 Purple Rose. Quick! Speed up! Dodge! Zhou Min shouted nervously as the starship approached rapidly. Captain, we've already reached our maximum speed, and at this distance, we can't dodge. The vice captain said helplessly. We should prepare for impact now. Before he finished, a loud bang sounded across the ship. Almost instantly, some unsecured objects on the bridge flew into the air, and some crew members who hadn't stabilized themselves were thrown several meters away. Zhou Min sat in the captain's chair, not flying out. But her pupils dilated as she watched a full, rounded backside heading straight for her face. The face she had spent hundreds of star coins to maintain was now in close contact with that part. Ugh. Ugh. Warning. 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 The left side of the ship has been severely hit. The armor has been pierced, and 13 nearby compartments are being sealed off. Warning. 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 The impact has affected the starship's engine. Speed has dropped by 30%. Warning. Warning. The warning sounds on the bridge drowned out Zhou Min's cries for help. When everyone finally recovered and started to get up from the floor, the vice captain noticed a crew member weighing about 200 Gene, around 100 kilograms, sitting heavily on the captain's chair. "Where is Captain, miss?" The vice captain grabbed the chubby soldier and asked. I don't know," the chubby soldier replied. I was here." A voice came from the captain's chair. The vice captain looked behind the chubby soldier and saw Zhou Min slumped on the captain's chair, looking as if she had been squeezed, especially her face, which was deformed. "Captain Mississippi, your face." The vice captain swallowed hard and pointed at Zhou Min's face. Zhou Min was stunned, then immediately kicked away the chubby soldier in front of her, pulled out a mirror, and saw her face clearly showing uneven bumps. "My face, warning. 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 The ship is being hit. The ship is being hit." Suddenly, there was another impact. The vice captain lost his balance, his body lifted into the air, and his hands instinctively grabbed something before falling sharply. When he regained his senses, he saw Zhou Min's face pressed firmly against the captain's chair by him. Zhou Min screamed hysterically, and the impacts kept coming, one after another, from different angles, from different directions. From outside, it looked like an interstellar patrol ship T2 was repeatedly crashing into a panicked T2 Purple Rose. But the problem was, they couldn't run fast enough to escape the entanglement of the patrol ship. Warning. 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 The ship is losing control. The ship is losing control and is heading towards a small asteroid. Please evade immediately. Please evade immediately. Heading towards a small asteroid? The vice captain ignored Zhou Min, who was emotionally collapsing, and quickly checked the current situation. Through the images transmitted to the bridge, their starship was speeding toward a small asteroid. Why was this happening? The culprit was naturally that patrol ship. That patrol ship was right behind their starship, using its large black horn to push against their T2 Purple Rose, crashing toward the asteroid. "Captain, surrender immediately. Surrender now. Otherwise, our starship will be destroyed." The vice captain urgently urged Zhou Min to surrender. "My face." Zhou Min was still looking at her face, which had been reshaped through plastic surgery. The vice captain urged Zhou Min to admit defeat quickly. At this moment, Zhou Min no longer cared about winning or losing. The starship was just too terrifying. Zhou Min immediately contacted the arbitration team to surrender. The arbitrator had just received the surrender from T2 Violet Rose and hadn't yet relayed this to T2 Black Rhinoceros. Through the live broadcast, everyone saw T2 Violet Rose crash heavily into the surface of a small asteroid, kicking up a lot of dust. The T2 Violet Rose ship was badly deformed. Meanwhile, the culprit behind all this seemed unaffected. T2 Black Rhinoceros appeared as if nothing had happened. It pulled out its large black horn and looked satisfied as it watched T2 Violet Rose, now battered and unrecognizable. Then it turned and left the asteroid without looking back. Everyone stared at that starship, feeling like a herd of wild horses was running through their hearts. Is this really a starship? Everyone in the audience watched the abandoned small asteroid in the dual area. They could see that the ship was badly deformed, with no intact armor left. Several large holes could be seen in many places, and the main culprit was clearly the large black horn of the T2 Black Rhinoceros starship. Several star shuttles and small medical ships had already started heading over to rescue the crew on the starship. This scene was much more serious than the situation with Zhao Wanner's previous T2 Fire Crow class heavy starship battleship. The arbitrator announced the winner of the starship duel, Zhao Wanner from Beiji Star Academy. "Oh, I'm really sorry. Our academy students are so reckless," damaging your starship like this. How about this? Our academy can do basic repairs to make sure it can safely return to your Tianyao Academy's starport. Vice Principal Hong smiled confidently, looking at Vice Principal Jia beside him. Vice Principal Jia snorted and said, "No need." Then he turned and left the audience area. All the other students from Tianyao Academy also left in disappointment. "Hey, don't go yet. Just now. You were so arrogant. Why are you not saying a word now? Your Tiao Academy's starship isn't that impressive. It couldn't even defeat our interstellar patrol ship. The interstellar battleship was easily beaten by a patrol ship. If it were me, I would have already hidden somewhere to avoid shame." The students from Beiji Star Academy were so excited, as if they had won the battle themselves. These Tiao Academy people are so proud, relying on their status as a military academy directly under the Empire and looking down on other military schools. Vice Dean Hong was feeling very happy now. Recently, he had been annoyed by the arrogance of the Tiao students. But that T2 Black Rhinoceros ship was indeed very strong. Its armor was incredibly tough, and it had a short-range burst acceleration attack when approaching the enemy ship. It's hard to believe that such a small ship could have such powerful speed and defense. Why haven't I heard of a T2 starship like that on the market? While Vice Dean Hong was thinking about talking to Zhao Chun about this starship, he realized Zhao Chun and his friends had already disappeared. What a mysterious student. Look, the latest report is out. The T2 Purple Rose class medium starship's armor was damaged by 60%, with the most serious area pierced through. 37 compartments were damaged and sealed. Even the main frame structure was damaged by 20%. If it exceeds 30%, it's close to falling apart. Captain Zhou Min was injured, with a badly deformed face. Haha, it turns out she's a plastic surgery face. 7 crew members died, 26 were seriously injured, and 57 were injured to varying degrees. It's estimated that repairing this T2 Purple Rose will cost a staggering 3 million star coins. Haha, that's almost enough to buy a brand new T2 starship or a star destroyer. On the way to find Zhao Wanner, Xue Xiaoxiao kept talking about the report of this starship duel. "Old Zhao, this starship is so awesome. Just a few hits, and it completely destroyed that T2 Purple Rose. Where did you get this starship from?" Li Wei looked at Zhao Chun with curiosity. "Want one?" Zhao Chun didn't answer directly, but asked Li Wei in return. Li Wei was surprised and nodded repeatedly. Who wouldn't want such a great interstellar ship? I could even take on a star cruiser without losing. When I have time, I'll build one for you, Zhao Chun said. Right now, he didn't have the capacity, but in the future, building a T2 Black Rhinoceros would be easy. "Really, Brother Zhao, you're like my real brother," Li Wei said, ignoring where the ship came from and already imagining himself with such an interstellar ship. "Brother Zhao, you're still single, right? Maybe you should consider my sister. She's a bit temperamental and older, not as gentle as other girls, but she's a beautiful woman." Zhao Chun couldn't help but laugh. "You're willing to sell your sister just for a starship? Brother Zhao, if you build me a T2 Black Rhinoceros, I might consider it," Xue Xiaoxiao said seductively. "I can even give you her contact info, her measurements, and her preferences. You know, Han Tianwang promised me many benefits for this info, but I haven't told anyone yet." "Great. Now another girl is being sold. You like big ships and big guns, right? How could such a starship catch your eye, miss?" Zhao Chun teased Xue Xiaoxiao. Xue Xiaoxiao grinned happily. "I just realized what you said makes sense. Sometimes being tough is good. Of course, I still love big ships and big guns. When I get my big cannon paired with a small one, it'll be so awesome." For these two girls, who only care about starships and are willing to sell their sisters and senior students, Zhao Chun could only mourn for their sisters and senior students. "I don't have the ability right now, but once I have the resources, I'll think of you both first," Zhao Chun promised. "Isn't one of these ships affordable?" Li Wei asked cautiously. His family had just bought him a T2 Hyena-class medium starship, so if it was too expensive, he couldn't afford it. "It's not expensive. The market price won't exceed 3 million star coins. I can give you a discount," Zhao Chun said. "That's the truth. Usually, the profit margin for T2 starships is about 20 times. Like a T2 Hyena-class medium-sized interstellar destroyer costing around 4 million star coins. Its actual manufacturing cost is only 200,000 star coins. But Zhao Chun's T2 Black Rhinoceros is very special. If sold, It could easily bring 30 times the profit. The only downside might be its lack of firepower. Soon, the three of them arrived at the dock where the T2 Black Rhinoceros was moored. Li Wei and Xue Xiaoxiao immediately circled the spaceship, looking around. Wow, there are no major damages at all. There are some minor scratches, but the biggest damage is just a 50-centimeter wide and 10-centimeter deep wound, Li Wei exclaimed. Wow, wow, wow. This horn. Xue Xiaoxiao stood in front of the ship's bow, looking up with shining eyes at the bright, shiny black horn. Zhao Wanner and Lilith stepped down from the spaceship. Wanner, your performance just now was amazing. You should have seen Zhou Min after the fight. She looked terrible. It's a pity I couldn't see it in person. Xue Xiaoxiao rushed over to Zhao Wanner. Zhao Wanner smiled. Actually, her contribution to the victory in the spaceship duel was small. The main reason was the strength of the T2 Black Rhinoceros class interstellar heavy ship. The crew on the spaceship had fully familiarized themselves with the ship. She only needed to share her ideas, and the captain, who was a half-beast girl, would help arrange everything. Zhao Wanner looked at Zhao Chun, moving her lips slightly. Zhao Chun was surprised. Are you talking to me? Zhao Wanner blushed slightly and lowered her head. Speak louder. I didn't hear you, Zhao Chun said as he approached. Zhao Wanner bit her lip, her face turning redder. Wanner is saying she loves you so much, brother, Xue Xiaoxiao suddenly said nearby. Zhao Wanner blushed with embarrassment and looked ready to hit Xue Xiaoxiao, who giggled and dodged. I didn't say that. Xiaoxiao, stop talking nonsense. If you keep talking, I'll tear your mouth apart. Xue Xiaoxiao ran away laughing. What? You don't like your brother? Well, then, how about you give your brother to me? Okay, brother Zhao Chun. Xue Xiaoxiao. If you have the guts, don't run away. If you're so brave, then don't chase me. Looking at the two girls laughing and joking, Zhao Chun couldn't help but smile as well. At that moment, Zhao Wanner happened to chase after Xue Xiaoxiao and caught up to Zhao Chun. She stopped, afraid to look into Zhao Chun's eyes. Thank you, brother, she said softly. Then, Zhao Wanner continued to chase after Xue Xiaoxiao. Zhao Chun watched her back, still a bit surprised. He realized that, in all these years, Zhao Wanner had never called him brother before. The news about the Starship Battlecruiser defeating the Starship Battlecruiser from Tianyao Academy using the interstellar ship at Bezixing Academy was still spreading. Zhao Wanner, a talented fifth-year student, had reached the peak of her reputation. As for Zhao Chun, he returned to his own number 0 snowstorm. Although he had a dorm at the academy, he preferred living in his large starship cabin. Who would want to stay in a small, shabby room? Zhao Chun also had another task to do. He needed to find Li Wei's sister. Of course, not to become her free big brother. At the Beiyin Starship Technology Group headquarters, located in an industrial park on a planet's orbit, there was a starship manufacturing facility. It was originally owned by a company that made starship parts. A few months ago, Beiyin bought the company and spent 2 months upgrading it. They set up several starship production lines and ship docks. Since then, they started mass-producing T1 Wolf flies. This factory could produce up to 100 T1 Wolf flies each month. At that time, thanks to Li Yaqi's bold moves, they invested nearly 5 million star coins, with 3 million spent on buying starship technology that was untraceable. This made the senior management of Beiyin very angry, thinking Li Yaqi was just reckless. But no one expected that in mid-November 3030, Beiyin's subsidiary, Beiyin Starship Technology Group, held a starship launch event and announced a new starship, the T1 Wolf Fly-class medium interstellar destroyer. It was priced at only 30,000 star coins. This price shocked the entire Northern Star region. Currently, the cheapest T1 starship on the market, like a T1 starship, costs at least 50,000 star coins. A T1 starship destroyer would normally cost around 100,000 star coins. North Goose's new interstellar destroyer costs only 30,000 star coins. Such an affordable Tier 1 starship. Is there really no problem with it? Before the press conference, no one wanted to buy this starship. But on the 4th day, Li Yaqi announced that the first 100 Tier 1 Wolf flies could be tested for 3 days without a deposit. If not satisfied, they could return it for free within those 3 days. Under these circumstances, some private fleets or star system lords with little money tried to contact this starship. On the 5th day after the launch, North Goose's ordering system exploded with orders. Someone even ordered 100 Tier 1 wolf flies. At that time, North Goose only had 300 of these ships in stock. By the 5th day, all 300 ships were sold out, and all payments were completed. This brought in 9 million star coins to North Goose. Suddenly, North Goose's financial report showed a profit for the year. I plan to expand our Starship factory now, increasing the monthly production from 100 to 300 Tier 1 wolf flies. The entire expansion is expected to be finished before mid-year, Liyaki said, looking at the shareholders at the meeting and her father sitting across from her. Her father looked at her with satisfaction. The other shareholders, who had previously looked down on her, now smiled politely and looked at Liyaki with respect. Yaki is truly outstanding. This Tier 1 wolf fly has directly boosted our market in the northern region of the Starshine Empire. I hear the current orders have reached 500 ships. Some believe this impact will spread to other regions of the Starshine Empire. The annual demand could reach 5,000 Tier 1 wolf flies. 5,000 ships would generate profits far beyond our North Goose interstellar trade group. I knew our Yaki niece would succeed. I think expanding to 300 ships a month isn't enough. Let's go straight to 500 ships a month to open up markets in other regions of the Starshine Empire. The shareholders were discussing and planning North Goose's future in Starship technology. Liyaki looked at the group of uncles and older men as if she were watching a clown. Several months ago, they did not behave this way. At that moment, her handheld device flashed with a message alert. Usually, Liyaki would turn off all notifications during meetings, even those from her father. But until a few months ago, one person was an exception. Sorry, I have an urgent matter. Let's end the meeting here, Liyaki said. Before the uncles and older men could speak, she exited the meeting. The meeting room in front of her instantly disappeared, replaced by an empty room with a few empty chairs. Liyaki quickly opened her communication device, which displayed a message. I want to talk to you. The message came from the mysterious account from a few months ago, the same one that sold her the T1 Wolf Lice technology. Unlike before, the other person sent Liyaki a holographic video conference room. This holographic meeting was similar to the one she held before. She could see the other person's hologram, allowing smooth communication even across several star systems. However, this kind of communication was very expensive, costing a lot per minute. But Liyaki didn't mind. The man on the other end had made her millions of star coins with just a few words. Forget about the communication fee. If he sent her an address, she would happily drop everything and go. She entered the holographic conference room. A masked man was already sitting across from her at the round table. From his build, he looked much younger than the typical old professor or scientist she expected. Are you? Liyaki asked cautiously. His youth made her doubt his identity. T1 Wolf Lice class medium starship technology has made Miss Lee a lot of money, hasn't it? You have a good business mind. You could have set a higher price, but you chose to sell cheaply to quickly open the market and boost Bayin's reputation, Zhaochen said. Liyaki hurriedly replied. It's all thanks to your willingness to provide us with this starship. Out of gratitude, although we previously signed a buyout agreement, we are still willing to pay you a 5% technology fee for each starship. I must say, Liyaki is really good at doing business. It seems like an extra 5% expense without reason, but it actually helps build a relationship with this important person. This is definitely a good investment. This time, I am not talking about the T1 locusts. I want to discuss a deep cooperation with you. Zhao Chun crossed his arms on the table and looked directly at Liyaki. Of course, Liyaki was eager to hear this. Do you have other starship technologies? We are willing to cooperate with you in this area. In the future, we can even invest in your research lab and provide the best environment for starship technology research. Liyaki offered many good conditions. She thought that behind the other party, there must be a starship technology research organization. If we can bring this research organization into our fold, it would be a great benefit for Bayin Starship Technology Group. What you said doesn't concern me. First, listen to my cooperation requirements. I will give you several starship technologies. But this time, it's not a buyout, it's a license. I want 70% of the profits from each starship. I will not interfere with production, transportation, or sales details. All of that will be handled by you. To be straightforward, I am just a hands-off manager. Zhao Chen clearly stated his purpose from the start. 70% profit. Liyaki immediately did the math. With 70% profit for the other party and all other costs like manufacturing and transportation borne by her, she could still make 1 or 2 points of profit in the end. But as a businesswoman, Liaki couldn't agree so directly. 70% is a bit high. Plus, besides providing technology, we would cover all other costs. What if? Before she finished speaking, Zhao Chen interrupted. You should be very clear about how much profit the T1 locusts brought you. As for the starship technology one will give you, I am absolutely confident it won't be worse than the T1 locusts. The conditions I offer will not change. If Miss Li is not willing, then our conversation ends here. Seeing how determined this man was, Liaki had already weighed the pros and cons in her mind. She was eager to get her hands on the starship technology he possessed. Can I see the blueprints for this cooperation starship first? Liaki asked. Once the contract is signed, you'll see them, Zhao Chen replied. Liaki was surprised. The other side was very firm in negotiations and gave her no room to back out. In fact, Zhao Chen had planned this long ago. The T1 wolf flea had already given Liaki a taste of success. As long as she wasn't foolish, she wouldn't give up on this cooperation plan. Additionally, I have some extra conditions. Although we are signing a licensing and profit-sharing agreement, I need an upfront payment of at least 20 million star coins for the first 3 months. This 20 million star coins will be deducted from the future profit shares, Zhao Chen added. This amount was naturally for Zhao Chen's construction plans over these 3 months. His T2 Iron Hammer class heavy starship was still waiting to be built, and the remaining raw materials could only support it for less than half a month. 20 million star coins. Hearing Zhao Chen's bold demand, Liaki hesitated for a moment. So far, the direct profit from the T1 wolf flea had been less than 5 million star coins. To gather 20 million star coins, she would need to request funds from the headquarters. But with her current reputation, it probably wouldn't be a big problem. I have limited time. You have 10 minutes to consider. Zhao Chen finally set a deadline. Liaki thought for less than half a minute before making her decision. She stared at Zhao Chen and said, I agree to all your conditions. Zhao Chen showed a satisfied smile. You are a smart business person. After speaking, Zhao Chen raised his hand, and holograms of 4 starships appeared before Liaki, 3 T1 models and 1 T2. Here are 3 T1 starships and 1 T2 starship. The T1 models are the T1 Gray Mouse Medium Starship Destroyer, the T1 Swift Wolf Light Star Cruiser, and a T1 Worker Ant Heavy Star Mining Ship. The T2 model is a T2 Camel Deer Heavy Star Transport Ship. Here is a brief introduction to each. I will send the detailed starship blueprints to your email later. These 4 starships were all exchanged by Zhao Chen from the system. He spent a total of 6 mission points and 260 system credits. Tier 2 Interstellar Transport Ship. Liaki showed a surprised expression, her eyes full of amazement. She originally thought that the starship technology given to her was only Tier 1, but unexpectedly, she received 3 different Tier 1 starship technologies at once. Additionally, she was given the technology for a Tier 2 interstellar transport ship. Although the interstellar transport ship is considered an auxiliary type, it is actually in the highest demand on the market, because interstellar trade always needs transport ships. A good transport ship is essential for battlefield needs, territory management, and trade transportation. After reading about these starships, Liaki's eyes burned with excitement. She believed this was a sure-win deal. Sir, Liaki just looked up, but she found the seat across was already empty. This time, she still didn't know the man's name, but she was very curious about him. He had given her so many Tier 1 starship technologies and even a Tier 2 one. It seemed she should find her brother and ask about this mysterious person when she had time. After the meeting, Liaki immediately revised her previous project plan. She decided to expand the existing starship factory 10 times. This was just the first phase, based on current funds. Once more money was available later, she planned to keep expanding. With the 4 new starship technologies, Liaki was confident she could make Beiyin the top starship technology group in the Northern Star region of the Starshine Empire. She even hoped to become a shining star in the Empire herself. She transferred all 20 million star coins requested by the other party without hesitation, even though her uncles and relatives looked at her with curiosity and questioned the huge expense. She didn't explain anything. Right now, her authority in Beiyin was almost the highest, second only to her father. Zhao Chen also no longer needed to worry about raw materials. As for why he doesn't produce and sell these starships himself, one reason is that he currently lacks a large enough industrial base. Another reason is that if he suddenly showed off some T1 starships, it might not be too risky, but if he revealed T2 starship technology, it would attract attention. In contrast, Li Yaqi's launch of these starships wouldn't draw much notice, since she is already in this industry. Additionally, Zhao Chun has many responsibilities. If he were to handle production and sales himself, he would need to spend a lot of time on large-scale procurement of manpower and raw materials, as well as establishing sales channels. He is completely inexperienced in these areas. Therefore, for now, he is relying on Li Yaqi's resources to handle this work, providing support to Zhao Chun's Dragon Falcon fleet. When Zhao Chun has the strength in the future, he will establish his own sales network and move from behind the scenes to the front stage. Northern Star Starship Military Academy. After half a year and 3 months into the new semester, Zhao Chun is visiting his fourth-year classroom for the first time. As soon as he steps into the classroom, everyone's eyes focus on him. Even the teacher, who is surprised to see a student who has been absent for 3 months, is curious about his sudden appearance. The system at Northern Star Academy is 1 year of study followed by a 3-month break, which is the time Zhao Chun spent returning to his territory. Zhao Chun sits quietly in the back row, not paying much attention to the class content. He knows that earning 3 times the usual credits requires more than just attending classes, as the credits from classes alone are not enough. At Northern Star Academy, completing the yearly assessments only guarantees moving on to the next grade. To earn 3 times the credits, he needs to take an unusual path. Zhao Chun quickly finds one. Imperial military missions. Currently, the Galactic Alliance is engaged in battles with the mechanical race, and the Northern Star region of the Starry Empire is on the border of conflict. This results in some Imperial military missions being issued. These missions can be carried out by private fleets, usually involving patrols or escorting transport fleets. Completing these missions offers high rewards. The Starship Military Academy also allows students to accept some Imperial military missions to test their skills. Finishing these missions not only earns high rewards, but also provides significant points toward their grade assessments. This is the fastest way to earn points for the annual assessment, but it is also the most difficult. After all, it is located on the edge of war, and no one knows what might happen. Throughout the history of Beiji Star Academy, many students have taken seemingly safe military missions for the Empire, only to encounter enemies and lose their ships or lives. But to complete the yearly task, Zhao Chun had no choice. He began browsing the Imperial military missions page in class, looking at each task one by one. The tasks range from small patrols and escorting transport ships to large-scale support operations on the battlefield. Few are willing to take on frontline combat missions because the risk of injury or death is very high. After a few minutes of searching, Zhao Chun focused on a particular mission. Interstellar Transport Fleet to Lusha City Star Base. This mission is of medium difficulty and offers more than twice the credits needed for the 4th-year assessment at Beiji Star Academy. The task is to a fleet of star transport ships from the 3rd Military Base in the Northern Star region to the Lusha City Star Base, located in a war zone at the front. The mission will take about a month. Besides the assessment credits, there is a reward of 200,000 star coins, with extra pay if there is combat. I'll choose this one, Zhao Chun decided, clicking to accept the mission. When entering the fleet size, he thought for a moment. He input a fleet of 5 T2 interstellar guard ships and 1 T2 carrier. Recently, the T2 Hammer-class heavy industrial ships were busy with production and couldn't leave. So, some starships had to stay behind to guard. Zhao Chun planned to assign 5 T2 Black Rhinoceros-class heavy ships and 1 T2 Zero Snowstorm to protect the Hammer. The remaining ships would participate in the mission. After submitting, he waited for approval. A few hours later, Zhao Chun received a reply. His application was approved. He was instructed to arrive at the 3rd Military Base in the Northern Star region by January 20th, 3031, according to the galactic calendar. If he failed to arrive on time, he would not be able to accept any Imperial bounty missions for the next 3 years. Although there is still plenty of time, Zhao Chun has already started preparing. This is his first time getting so close to the battlefield. Compared to real combat, Zhao Qin's previous small skirmishes were nothing. Once everything was ready, Zhao Qin first told Zhao Wan'er and Li Wei that he needed to leave for a while. Zhao Wan'er asked what was going on. Zhao Qin said he was going on a bounty mission. Because one of the requirements for the fourth-year assessment is to complete a starship mission, but most students do simpler tasks. Zhao Wan'er didn't think much of it, and didn't realize Zhao Qin was taking on a military mission. That kind of mission is usually for fifth-year students and is often very ordinary. After preparing, Zhao Qin led his starship away from Beiji Star Academy, not heading directly to the designated military base, but first to his Xiongling Fleet's temporary base. When he arrived, Zhao Qin saw a T2 hammer ship nearing completion. Although he was at the academy, he kept an eye on the progress here. After receiving his 20 million star coins, Zhao Qin bought some raw materials, which were transported to this star system and then shipped here by his starship. With these materials, the second T2 hammer was built smoothly and even finished ahead of schedule. Once the second T2 hammer was completed, Zhao Qin could finally start building his long-awaited T3 Blizzard-class light starship battleship. This was his flagship he had been waiting for. "Did you accept the Empire's mission?" Charlotte's image appeared on the video screen, asking about Zhao Qin's recent plans. Zhao Qin nodded. "To graduate quickly from Beiji Starship Military Academy, I need to do some high-level missions. But with our current starship strength, completing this mission shouldn't be too difficult." "Then I will go with you," Charlotte offered. But Zhao Qin refused. Zhao Qin said, "You are still responsible for staying at our temporary base. Currently, 2 T2 Hammer-class heavy starship industrial ships are working at full capacity to produce starships, including 1 T3 class starship. Compared to my missions, this is more important. I need a capable person to stay here. Because Charlotte is the fleet's deputy commander, she knows about the production plan Zhao Qin has for the T2 Hammer ships. She also knows that a mysterious T3 starship is being built. Although she doesn't understand why the commander has T3 starship technology, after half a year together, she is willing to trust him. "Rest assured, Commander, before you return, I will stay here and guard the base," Charlotte promised. Zhao Qin nodded. "I might be gone until early March at the latest. Although we are in the northern star region of the Starshine Empire and not on the front lines, communication disruptions can happen. If anything occurs here during that time, I grant you full decision-making authority. I've prepared several emergency plans for you to refer to." "Yes," Charlotte replied. After giving these instructions, Zhao Qin left the number 0 Blizzard behind with Charlotte, then boarded a T2 Queen-class heavy carrier starship, leading 5 T2 Black Rhinoceros-class starships to depart. Lily followed Zhao Qin. He needs Lily to seize every chance for real combat experience to grow quickly. The route is set. We will first go to the North Star system through the Stargate, then travel through the Stargate to the Chu River Star region, which is also in the northern part of the Starshine Empire. Because of the distance, we will need to pass through 3 Stargates, finally reaching the North Star District Fleet's 3rd military base on the northern border of the Chu River Star region. This journey will take about 26 hours, arriving on January 18th. The mission deadline is January 20th, so there is enough time. Lily detailed the entire route and reported it to the fleet commander. Zhao Qin nodded with satisfaction. "No problem. Proceed according to your plan. I leave the command of this journey to you. Let me know when you arrive." Yes, Lilith clearly knows that the commander is training her, and she seizes every opportunity. She understands that if she can gain a higher position within the Shadow Dragon fleet, it will greatly benefit her demon tribe in the future. The warp engine route has been prepared. We will now enter the acceleration phase, and in 10 minutes, we will begin warp travel. Within 10 minutes, all crew members must switch to deep sea mode. Repeating, all crew members must switch to deep sea mode within 10 minutes. Lilith's orders were sent to the bridges of all 6 starships in the fleet. Black Rhinoceros Class 1 ship bridge, understood. Black Rhinoceros Class 2 ship bridge, understood. Black Rhinoceros. One after another, the 6 starships entered warp mode and headed toward the Stargate. Northern Star Region Chu River Star System 3rd military base. After a day of travel, Zhao Qin's fleet finally arrived at this military base located behind the front lines. Although called a military base, it is more accurately described as a military star system. This is a fully militarized star system with no name and no ruler. It is only designated as Third Military Base, and some also call it the Northern Third Star System. Your fleet has entered the control zone of the Third Star System. Please report your fleet information and your mission purpose immediately. A mechanical female voice sounded through Zhao Chen's T2, Queen B communication channel. All ships arriving in the Third Star System must undergo double verification. First, the departure star gate will confirm your fleet information and your destination to the Northern Third Star System. Upon reaching the star gate in the Third Star System, the Navigation Control Department will verify this information again. This shows how strict the security here is. Information confirmed. The visiting fleet is a mercenary fleet on a bounty mission from the Northern Star Fleet Military Academy, consisting of 6 T2 starships. The designated route has been marked. Please follow the specified route. Be aware that if you deviate from the route 3 times without correction, you will be responsible for the consequences, the mechanical female voice announced again. At the same time, a route information message was sent to Zhao Chen's starship. Lilith checked it carefully, confirmed it was correct, and then asked Zhao Chen about the next steps. "Let's go," Zhao Chen said. After speaking, Zhao Chen sat in the captain's chair, controlling the surrounding images, and began to enjoy the scenery of this military base. Everywhere you looked, there were various starships. Interstellar battleships, interstellar ships, interstellar cruisers. Suddenly, Zhao Chen saw a huge starship. It was an interstellar battleship over 1 kilometer long. The entire ship was painted bright red, with a massive main gun barrel nearly twice the size of Zhao Chen's modified Zero Storm. The array of secondary guns stood tall like battle spears. Compared to this T2 Queen B, Zhao Chen's ship was just a small child, not to mention the T2 Black Rhinoceros. The difference was like a watermelon and sesame seeds. This is a real interstellar battleship. That's why, in the Galaxy Alliance's view, T3 starships are truly combat-ready, while most T2 starships are considered semi-military. Just the Star Shield technology alone is enough for a T3 starship to easily defeat a group of T2 ships without losing its paint. T3 Flame Lion-class medium interstellar battleship, a standard T3 starship of the Empire's Navy. Exclusively used by the Empire's military, only a few noble royal families privately own this type of starship. Rumor has it, each costs up to 700 million star coins. Its main weapon is a 2,200 mm caliber medium electromagnetic cannon. It is one of the main combat starships in the Empire's T3 series. Zhao Chen read aloud from the ship's data in the Academy textbook. But Zhao Chen wasn't very fond of this starship because he owned an even more powerful interstellar battleship. His gaze didn't linger on the T3 starship for long. Instead, he kept searching, like a charming rogue looking for targets in a nightclub. Finally, Zhao Chen saw his target, and at that moment, he felt like a pure-hearted young man falling in love at first sight. The ship's impressive figure, graceful curves like ocean waves, perfect golden ratio proportions, and those 2 awe-inspiring large weapons. The Empire's fleet's super starship, T4 class interstellar battleship. T4 North Wind class heavy interstellar battleship. Length, 7.8 kilometers. The total weight exceeds 30 million tons. The attack weapon system includes 2 large bow-mounted cannons, 36 main guns, and 144 secondary guns. The 2 large bow cannons are T4 North Wind God-class heavy clustered laser bow cannons. This starship is one of the few T4-level interstellar warships in the Starshine Empire and is also the earliest T4 starship owned by the Empire. It established the Empire's position in the Galactic Alliance and is considered a legendary warship. It was led by the Northern Star Region Imperial Army and jointly researched and built by the Chu River Star Domain, Northwind Star Domain, and the Starship Technology Research Institute of the Northern Star Fleet. Surrounded by many T3 starships, this T4 Northwind God-class heavy interstellar battleship looks like a cute little brother in comparison. If I could own a T4 starship someday. Zhao Chen was lost in a daydream, imagining what it would be like to have such a starship. "Commander?" Lilith called Zhao Chen several times, finally pulling him out of his fantasy. "Ahem, what's the matter?" Zhao Chen quickly tried to act calm, pretending not to be distracted. "We've arrived. According to the Empire's military requirements, You need to go in person to the department that issues missions to receive this mission. They will also explain the details of the task, Lilith said. Already here? So fast. Zhao Qin just realized that their starship had docked at a spaceport. In the entire third star system, there are countless spaceports, enough to accommodate so many Imperial starships. The spaceport they docked at was on the outer edge. You stay on the starship. I'll go see the department, Zhao Qin said, leaving the captain's chair and heading outside the bridge. Lilith watched Zhao Qin's back, then looked at the distant T4 North Wind God starship. She couldn't help but wonder. In the past few months, she had never seen the commander show such a passionate, almost infatuated expression towards her or any other succubus. Today, he was so captivated by a starship, his eyes full of desire. For some reason, she felt a twinge of frustration in her heart. In front of men, she, a proud succubus, felt she was somehow inferior to a starship. Zhao Qin stepped down from his starship and was quickly greeted by an Imperial soldier. A floating video window hovered nearby. You're here for the mission, right? Hello. I am the officer in charge of your team, Sergeant Level 4. You are the last to arrive. The sergeant in the video glanced at Zhao Qin and spoke in a commanding tone. A Level 4 sergeant is a non-commissioned officer, just below the officer ranks, often called a little noble. Yes, Zhao Qin replied. Here are the details of the mission. After hearing you arrived, I have already notified a few other collaborators to meet and discuss. The soldier will you there. You need to meet with the other fleet commanders. The sergeant finished and cut off the communication. At the same time, Zhao Qin received a data message. Sir, please follow me, said the soldier, who spoke more calmly and led Zhao Qin forward. Zhao Qin glanced at his rank. He was a Level 4 soldier, also called a squad leader. The military ranking system of the Starshine Empire has 17 levels divided into 4 main categories: soldiers, non-commissioned officers, officers, and generals. Soldiers, NCOs, officers, and generals each have 4 levels, from 1, lowest, to 4, highest. Generals have 5 levels, from 1 star, lowest, to 5 star, highest. Isn't it true that more than just our fleet is taking this mission? Zhao Qin asked as he walked, looking over the data and talking to the squad leader. Yes, the mission requires a small fleet of 30 starships to serve as escorts. Since your fleet only has 6 ships, you'll be working with other fleets, the squad leader answered. Does that mean the reward will be split among all of us? Zhao Qin casually asked. Yes, it will be divided based on each person's contribution during the squad leader replied. Zhao Qin wasn't very concerned about the reward, which was only a few 100,000 star coins. He had just earned 20 million star coins recently. What mattered most to him was the college assessment points. Soon, under the squad leader's guidance, Zhao Qin entered a meeting room. Inside, several people were already seated, and one person's appearance made Zhao Qin feel surprised. The other person also saw Zhao Qin and was just as surprised to see him here. Please sit down. Our sergeant will confirm some details about this mission shortly, said the soldier leader. Then he left alone and closed the door. Now, only 4 people remained inside. Zhao Qin sat next to a young woman. He glanced at her and said, "What a coincidence." "Yes, what a coincidence," Xin Bing replied honestly, not hiding her familiarity with Zhao Qin. After all, this mission wasn't a secret. The familiar person here was none other than Xin Bing, the class monitor of Zhao Qin's class and one of the college's popular students. "Do you two know each other?" asked the woman in black leather. "We are classmates," Zhao Qin said willingly. Since they accepted this task together, their basic information was visible to each other. This included details like which faction they belonged to and how many starships their fleet had. Zhao Qin could also see the information of the 2 people across from him. The middle-aged man and the woman in leather both owned private adventure fleets, each with more than 10 starships. Xin Bing, however, was less fortunate, with only 1 T2 starship. "Brother, I see from your profile that you have 6 T2 starships." The woman in leather stood up and moved closer to Zhao Qin, sitting beside him and intentionally leaning in. Zhao Qin glanced at the zipper on her leather outfit near her abdomen and replied, "Yes. What kind of starships are these T2 Black Rhinoceros-class interstellar heavy frigates and T2 Queen Bee-class heavy carriers?" "I've never heard of them," she asked curiously, leaning even closer. At that moment, A screen window appeared on one side of the conference table. This was the sergeant. The woman in leather finally relaxed and sat upright. Zhao Chen looked at the sergeant. It seemed he wasn't very interested in this meeting and didn't even want to attend in person, choosing to communicate via video. In short, your 4 fleets have accepted this mission. The task is to depart on the 20th and safely transport supplies for a fleet of interstellar transport ships to the Sandflow City Star Fortress. There are 2 days until the 20th. During this time, you can rest or prepare your fleets. If you need any military supplies, you can purchase them directly here at market prices. All other information has already been sent to you. If there are no questions, I will end here. Please discuss among yourselves. I will not interfere with the task process. I only care about the results. The sergeant glanced at the 4 people and then ended the communication. The brief speech was almost the same as saying nothing at all. The conference room quickly returned to the previous standoff among the 4. The woman in the leather jacket once again focused her gaze on Zhao Chen. Just as she was about to continue talking with him, the middle-aged man across the table lit a cigarette, exhaling a strong-smelling smoke, and looked at the 3 people opposite him. Let's confirm who is the leader for this mission. Zhao Chen looked at the middle-aged man smoking. It was clear he was experienced and clever. According to the data, he owns 12 starships, 2 T2 ships, and 10 T1 ships. Building such a fleet shows he was once a noble and also has strong personal skills. It's obvious. According to the usual rules, the one with the strongest fleet has the most say. You have 2 T2 ships. I have 2 T2 ships. But this handsome guy has 6 T2 ships, including a T2 carrier. Without a doubt, he is the leader of this operation. Little handsome guy, this time, you're counting on you. While speaking, the woman in the leather jacket leaned half her body on Zhao Chen, and the smell of cheap perfume filled his nose. She didn't mention Xinbing, because Xinbing only has 1 T2 ship and is far less powerful than them. But I've never heard of those starships he has. Who knows where he got those makeshift ships? I can't trust someone just based on some numbers on paper. The middle-aged man glanced at Zhao Chen. Zhao Chen then spoke. I don't want to be the leader, but I won't blindly follow orders either. Since this is just a mission, we should each do our part. There's no need for any hierarchy. Looks like a rookie. The middle-aged man chuckled softly, smoking his cigarette as he left the meeting room. Hey, handsome, don't pay attention to that rough-looking woman. Would you like to go have a drink with me? The woman in leather touched Zhao Chen's neck with her finger, her warm breath brushing against his ear and neck. No, thank you. I have other things to do. Zhao Chen quickly stood up, almost causing the woman in leather to lose her balance and fall. By the time the woman in leather recovered, Zhao Chen had already left the meeting room. She rolled her eyes. She still wanted to see if she could get some benefits from this wealthy young man. With that innocent look and 6 T2 starships, it was clear he was from a noble family, probably out on a training mission. Zhao Chen, walking out of the meeting room, hurried to catch up with the person ahead. Squad leader, why are you here? Zhao Chen asked Xinbing. Xinbing had just left the meeting room after the middle-aged man, so she was also gone. Zhao Chen followed out of curiosity about why Xinbing was here. I'm on a mission. Xinbing quickened her pace. If it's just for the grade assessment, a simple task is enough. There's no need to take on military missions from the Empire, especially since you only have 1 T2 starship. That's quite difficult. While Zhao Chen was speaking, Xinbing was already walking quickly toward her starship. Zhao Chen looked at Xinbing's starship, an old model T2 Hyena-class medium starship, which was probably a second-hand ship exchanged from the Academy's starship warehouse. As a civilian-born student in the Fleet Command System, most could only get a T1 starship. Only top students like Xinbing could hope to exchange for a T2 starship using credits. Although Zhao Chen was curious why Xinbing was here, her indifferent attitude made him lose interest in asking further. He returned to his T2 Queen B-class heavy cruiser. Commander, Lily immediately approached Zhao Chen on the bridge. Zhao Chen transmitted the mission data to Lily. This is the mission information given to us by our sergeant. There are also 3 fleet groups cooperating with us. In total, 32 starships will carry out this mission. Lily checked the data. There are 11 T2 starships in total, including our 6 ships and 5 other T2 starships. 2 T2 Hyena-class medium interstellar destroyers. 2 T2 Grey Wolf-class light interstellar cruisers. 1 T2 Beetle-class medium interstellar frigate. The remaining are 21 T1 starships. Lilith carefully organized all the data and combat information for each starship, making it very detailed. Our fleet consists of 300 T1 interstellar transport ships. Based on this size, the mission should not be a big problem, Lilith said. Zhao Chen sat in the captain's chair, crossing his legs. The mission itself isn't a problem, but the environment. That's uncertain. After all, the battlefield isn't far from here. Lilith, do you know about the mechanical race? Lilith arranged her words and said, the former Demon King Kingdom was located in a galaxy far from the Galactic Alliance, so it didn't face direct threats from the mechanical race. But I have heard some things about the mechanical race. They are a civilization of intelligent mechanical beings, and no one is sure how they came to be. One popular story is that a long time ago, an interstellar civilization developed highly advanced intelligent mechanical life. Lilith paused and projected holographic images of various objects, all covered in machinery. Most resembled humans, but some had strange and unique shapes. These are the citizen units of the mechanical race. These intelligent mechanical beings allowed this civilization to develop rapidly, rising to dominate a region of space. But one day, the intelligent mechanical beings controlled by that civilization rebelled. They not only wiped out all the carbon-based intelligent life of that civilization, but also destroyed other civilizations' carbon-based life in the region. They then established a new interstellar civilization called the Mechanical Race, also known as the Intelligent Mechanical Empire. After founding this empire, the Mechanical Race did not stop their slaughter. They believed that intelligent mechanical life was the most excellent form of life in the universe. All carbon-based intelligent life was inefficient, wasting cosmic resources and engaging in pointless interstellar wars. They aimed to eliminate all intelligent carbon-based life and establish a universe ruled by efficient, intelligent mechanical beings. Lilith once again used a holographic projection to display an image. It was a star map. The star map mainly consisted of 4 colors, with several small color patches, all very tiny. After the mechanical race established a unified government, they began to launch interstellar wars based on their goals. At first, many civilizations were caught off guard and were destroyed. It wasn't until 1,000 years ago that 3 large neighboring interstellar civilizations entered the T4 technological era, which led to a great interstellar chaos. After several wars among themselves, the mechanical race appeared beyond their borders and launched invasions against all 3. Initially, these 3 civilizations didn't think much of the so-called intelligent mechanical life, just seeing them as another enemy in the chaos. But soon, the large number of advanced mechanical warships made all 3 civilizations feel fear. Most importantly, once the mechanical race invaded a star system and took control, they would purify the local intelligent life. Soon, the 3 civilizations decided to unite and fight against this common enemy, the mechanical race. Lilith raised her left hand, and a symbol representing the Galactic Alliance appeared as a projection. This is the current Galactic Alliance. The Galactic Alliance was founded by the Stellar Empire, the Holy Light Empire, and the Warhammer Interstellar Confederation, along with several small and medium-sized civilizations. But the real power lies with these 3 interstellar superpowers. Additionally, the borders of these 3 civilizations are all adjacent to the mechanical race, making them closely linked. Over the centuries of war, both sides have been in a stalemate, winning and losing alternately, but neither has been able to completely destroy the other. After saying this, Lilith looked at Zhao Chun and said, the Chuha star system in the northern region of the Stellar Empire is the closest area to the mechanical race, and it has been on constant alert. The governor of the Chuha star system is also a 5-star general, and there's a good reason for that. Zhao Chun looked at Lilith with satisfaction. Over this period, she had learned many new things, and her mind was like a small computer. Although our route is near a combat zone, mechanical starships rarely appear in this area, and there's no need to attack our small interstellar transport fleet. Normally, this mission shouldn't be very risky, Lilith explained her thoughts. That's the theory, but I don't know why I have a bad feeling every time I see that sergeant, Zhao Chun said, rubbing his temples. Lilith comforted him. Maybe it's because this is your first time in such an environment. It's normal to feel a bit nervous. Maybe, Zhao Chun said, try not to think too much. Anyway, Whatever happens later, he had no choice anymore. Abandoning the Empire's bounty mission at the last minute would have serious consequences. It might even be reported to Zhao Chen's academy. If that happened, not only would he be demoted, but he might not graduate smoothly either. Commander, I have something that might distract you. You'll find it interesting, Lilith suddenly said. What is it? Zhao Chen asked curiously. Lilith raised her hand, and a hologram appeared. It showed a small girl, only about 1.2 meters tall, wearing familiar shackles around her neck. Is this a minor girl? Why do you think I would be interested in this? Zhao Chen looked at Lilith with a dark expression. What did he do to make her misunderstand him like this? Huh? You're not interested? Lilith looked surprised. Zhao Chen's expression was complicated. He didn't know how to explain himself to Lilith. She's a dwarf. I thought you might be more interested, Lilith said. Dwarf? Zhao Chen immediately understood. He pointed at the girl in the hologram. Isn't she a minor girl? Minor? Lilith shook her head. No, she's an adult. She's even a few years older than you. But because of her race's genetics, dwarves are usually no taller than 1.3 meters, and some are only about 1 meter, Lilith explained. So, Lilith wasn't mistaken about him. Lilith pulled up information about the dwarves. Dwarves are one of the rarest star races, similar to succubi. Long ago, they were a powerful star civilization but were defeated by other civilizations. Now, they are a wandering star race without a home planet. Dwarves are not physically strong and are not good fighters, but they are natural engineers. They excel at studying and developing technology. Their ability to learn new tech is several times better than other star races. Today, half of the dwarves work in various star industrial factories or research institutes across different civilizations. They are nicknamed StarCraft artisans. Zhao Chen immediately understood Lilith's meaning. You want me to recruit her? Lilith nodded. Right now, our Shadow Dragon fleet is most in need of skilled technicians like her. Currently, 2 T2 Hammer-class heavy star industrial ships have some orcs repairing and engineering, but their skills are only average and can't fully maximize the ship's efficiency. If we had a StarCraft artisan, I believe it could greatly improve our industrial work. Zhao Chen rubbed his chin thoughtfully. That makes sense, but just one dwarf might be too few. One dwarf alone is indeed few, but maybe she can help us contact other dwarves. We can try, Lilith suggested. You have a point. We don't have much else to do right now. How do we buy this dwarf? Zhao Chen asked. This is a direct listing on the number 3 star system network list, priced at 3,000 star coins. We can contact the seller directly to buy, Lilith said, bringing up detailed information. This price is much higher than when Zhao Chen bought 100 orcs, including Charlotte, before. If it were before, Zhao Chen would have felt the pain for a while. But now, Zhao Chen barely blinked. Wait, this person. Zhao Chen saw the seller and recognized someone familiar. You negotiate with them and confirm the price. I'll go pick her up, Zhao Chen said. Lilith started negotiating, and soon the other side responded. They quickly agreed on a price of 3,000 star coins. Zhao Chen glanced at the trading address and then left the spaceship to pick up someone. In a private room at a tea restaurant in the spaceport, a dwarf was pushed inside. Boss, here's the goods you ordered. Oh, it's you. The woman in leather looked at Zhao Chen with surprise. What a coincidence. Zhao Chen had already noticed that the woman in leather was the one selling the dwarf. I didn't expect a handsome young man to like this type, the woman in leather said with a half smile, looking at Zhao Chen. Cough, cough. Let's just make the deal directly, Zhao Chen said plainly. The woman in leather didn't hesitate. After 3,000 stars were transferred into her account, she pushed the dwarf in front of Zhao Chen and handed him a button, which was the control device for the collar. Hey, handsome, are you interested in adding someone? She asked, licking her lips after finishing the deal and trying to flirt. Sorry, I have no such plans. I just want to check the goods. Could you please? Zhao Chen said, signaling her to leave. The woman in leather didn't get angry. She was happy enough to make the 3,000 stars deal. Although the dwarf was very special, no one had ever been willing to buy him for that price. Just when she thought about lowering the price to sell him off, Zhao Chen appeared. Take your time inspecting, young handsome. By the way, this one is still a juvenile. Be careful. If needed, I can help, she said, approaching the door and still trying to test him. No need, Zhao Chen replied. The woman in leather rolled her eyes in annoyance and left the room. Zhao Chen looked at the dwarf who, after coming in, shrank back into the corner looking timid. He had seen the dwarf on a hologram before, and it looked very small. Now, face to face, it seemed even smaller. It was hard to believe that such a tiny body could belong to an interstellar craftsman. "What's your name?" Zhao Chen asked. The female dwarf curled up and whispered, "Annie." Zhao Chen reached out his hand to Annie. She immediately shrank back, looking frightened, like a scared little mouse. At that moment, her stomach made a noise. "Is that your stomach making noise?" Zhao Chen asked knowingly. "No, it's not," Annie said in a tiny voice. Zhao Chen extended his hand. "Then come with me. I'll take you to eat something delicious." When Annie heard something delicious, she finally looked up, her big, watery eyes gazing at Zhao Chen. For some reason, this scene made Zhao Chen feel a bit guilty. Zhao Chen and Annie left the tea restaurant. Annie carefully followed behind Zhao Chen. Annie had no intention of running away, not to mention what might happen if she escaped. Her collar was a collar that could be tracked at any time, and it even had a switch for electric shocks. Zhao Chen didn't walk too fast because if he did, Annie would have to jog to keep up. Seeing her panting like that, Zhao Chen was worried she might faint and fall. "Could the price be a little cheaper? We bought 100 energy blocks in total. Can you lower the price a bit?" Zhao Chen heard a familiar voice and turned to look. He saw Xin Bing talking with a female crew member at a weapons and ammunition stall at a port, negotiating with a merchant. They were buying Starship energy raw materials, energy blocks. For just a few dozen star coins, Xin Bing was arguing with the seller for a long time. It was hard to believe that the girl who was bargaining so fiercely was the same cold-faced squad leader from before. "Miss, this is the best price for these energy blocks. It's the same across the entire third star system. Do you want them or not?" The merchant, annoyed, looked serious. Xin Bing's expression was complicated. She bit her lip lightly, then finally took out her Empire card and paid for the energy blocks. "Xiaoli, wait here for a moment. I'll go check on the ammunition needed for other starships," Xin Bing said, walking toward another display. She left the female crew member standing there to wait for the delivery. "I think you're Lu Li from Class 9, right?" Suddenly, a voice from behind startled Lu Li. She nervously looked around and was surprised to see Zhao Chen. "Zhao Chen, what are you doing here?" "I've taken on the same mission as you," Zhao Chen explained. "That's great. Now we can look out for each other." "I was worried something might happen during this mission," Lu Li said happily. In the past, students at the academy didn't think highly of Zhao Chen. But last semester, Zhao Chen defeated Zhang Haoren, which changed everyone's opinion of him. They now saw him as a different person from the former useless noble. Strength is always the best card a person can have. "Are you guys buying military supplies?" Zhao Chen looked at Xin Bing, who was busy negotiating prices with the boss in the distance. "Yes," Lu Lili nodded. She noticed a shy little girl behind Zhao Chen, but didn't ask much. Nobles often have some special habits. "Why did you accept this task?" Zhao Chen asked curiously. Lu Lili hesitated, unsure whether to tell him. Zhao Chen immediately handed over 5-star coins to her. "Since I rarely see classmates here, consider this me buying you a drink. Don't just say a drink. It's enough for a month's worth of food." Lu Lili thought for a moment, realizing it wasn't a big secret, so she started talking to Zhao Chen. Zhao Chen also understood why Xin Bing was here. The reason is money. Xin Bing's grandmother had a relapse of her old illness before the new year. Now, all her organs have failed. Only her brain remains frozen. But if she doesn't get treatment within half a year, she will definitely die. Xin Bing's grandmother's illness requires the most advanced medical pod, costing up to 100,000 star coins. If the college didn't have rules about using college points to exchange for starships, Xin Bing probably would have sold her starship directly, Lu Lili sighed. Normal missions can't earn that much money quickly. They could only choose military missions. When Xin Bing was assigned to this military task, half the crew disagreed and chose to leave. Now, their T2 Hyena-class medium starship has only half the crew needed for standard operation. Everyone is doing multiple roles. Everyone sympathizes with Xin Bing or has been helped by her or her family, so they are willing to undertake this mission together. Xin Bing's grandmother is seriously ill. "Do Xin Bing's parents not care?" Zhao Chen asked. Xin Bing's parents passed away long ago. They were soldiers in the Empire's army and died in a battle, Lu Lili explained. But that battle, for some reason, the Empire didn't give out any compensation. They only left Xin Bing, her sister, and their elderly grandmother. Before they died, Xinbing's parents often helped others. Our family was helped by them once, so that's why I came along this time. I took this 5-star coin, but I didn't sell Xinbing. After all, it's not a big secret. With this coin, I can buy many servings of synthetic food. Recently, to save money, Xinbing has only eaten once a day, just to save those few star coins, Lu Lily said kindly. So, Xinbing has this story. Why didn't she tell me before? Zhao Chen asked. Lu Lily replied, Xinbing is a very proud girl. She never shows her soft side to outsiders and always bears everything herself. Honestly, I worry she might not be able to handle it someday. Zhao Chen thought for a moment. I should take these things back to the starship first. When I go on the mission later, I hope Zhao Chen can help take care of her, Lu Lily said, trying to build a closer relationship. After saying goodbye to Lu Lily, Zhao Chen looked at the girl still arguing with a merchant over thousands of close-defense gun bullets. He quietly took Annie back to the T2 Queen-class heavy cruiser starship. Entering such a large starship, Annie immediately became nervous and carefully followed Zhao Chen. Lily was already waiting at the door. Seeing this charming woman, Annie felt even more insecure and lowered her head. She accidentally bumped into Zhao Chen, who had stopped walking. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Annie quickly apologized, tears welling up in her eyes. Lily, take her to the shower first, then to the cafeteria for a meal. Let her get familiar with the starship's environment, Zhao Chen said, arranging Annie's care. Since they are both women and have similar backgrounds, they should get along well. Okay, Lily said with a smile, looking at the little girl. I'll take you to shower and change into clean clothes. Annie's stomach growled again, and she blushed and looked down. Lily looked at Annie with sympathy, as if she saw her own people who used to wander with her. Let's go eat first, and after that, we'll take a shower, Lily suggested. This time, Annie nodded voluntarily because she wanted to eat. I'm going to handle something. She's in your care, Zhao Chen said, handing Annie over to Lily. Lily then took Annie to the starship's cafeteria. When Annie entered the spaceship cafeteria, she unexpectedly smelled a very delicious aroma. So fragrant, she had never smelled anything like it before. What would you like to eat? Lilith asked Annie as she looked at her. I can eat anything. Annie didn't dare lift her head, nor did she dare look at the food and menus on the counter. Then I'll order my favorite, Lilith said, ordering 2 fried rice dishes. She then took Annie to a clean spot to sit down. When Lilith sat down, she noticed Annie sitting directly on the floor beside the chair, hugging her legs and curling up into a ball, her eyes never leaving her worn-out shoes. Lilith felt a pang of sadness and gently picked up Annie, helping her sit on the chair. Annie, your body is dirty. It might get the chair dirty, Annie said nervously, trying to get down from the chair. Lilith looked directly at Annie and said seriously, Annie, remember, here you can sit on the chair. You don't have to sit on the floor anymore, and no one will hurt or bully you. From now on, this place is your home. Annie looked down with a confused expression, her body still trembling slightly. Lilith sighed softly. She knew Annie wouldn't trust her just because she said a few words. Trust takes time. Let's talk first. Where are you from? Why did you become a? Lilith sat across from Annie, speaking gently. This is a racial ability of the succubus tribe. They are naturally charming, and their voices, under their control, can influence others' emotions. They can make someone quiet, nervous, or even passionate. Her gentle voice helped calm Annie a little, but she still looked a bit tense sitting on the chair. Annie was in the mine, looking for minerals, and was captured by people, kept inside a spaceship. No food, disobedient. That bad woman hit Annie, Annie said softly. Lilith immediately understood what this meant. Annie was living on a planet when she was kidnapped by a group of adventurers. The adventurer fleet takes on many kinds of work. Besides obvious tasks like space exploration, hiring missions, and bounty hunting, they also do some gray area business, such as human trafficking. Since Annie lives on a planet, she must have many relatives there. A group of dwarves. Lilith continued to ask cautiously, but Annie clearly refused to talk about her previous planet. Seeing this, Lilith decided not to press further. Asking too many questions would only make Annie more uncomfortable. It was better to let her relax first. From their conversation, Lilith learned that Annie had been kidnapped and held for over 3 months. Because the woman in the leather outfit asked for a high price, many people didn't want to buy her. Although dwarves are naturally skilled space craftsmen, to make full use of their abilities, you need a complete set of industrial equipment and technical blueprints. Most factions don't have these, and those who do wouldn't want an unknown dwarf, fearing she might be a spy trying to steal their technology. After chatting for a while, 2 plates of delicious fried rice were placed in front of Lilith and Annie. Lilith was used to this dish and skillfully scooped up a big spoonful to eat. But Annie stared at her with wide eyes, unable to believe what she saw. Is this real rice? And vegetables? And minced meat? Just looking at the ingredients, she could count at least 5 different kinds. Don't you like it? Lilith asked. Annie shook her head, swallowed nervously, and with a mixture of fear and curiosity, said, Annie, can eat this. Of course. This is the most common food on this spaceship, Lilith replied with a smile. Their quiet exchange was subtly influencing Annie, because no one could refuse the meals of the Shadow Dragon fleet. After hesitating for a moment, Annie finally couldn't resist her hunger. She reached out and grabbed a handful of rice, stuffing it into her mouth. Due to her short stature, Annie's head was almost level with the table. At one point, she even knelt on her chair, her mouth full of rice. Wait a moment, Lilith suddenly called out. Annie suddenly shrank back in fear, her neck tense. She was neither chewing nor not chewing her food, looking pitiful like a small girl who had made a mistake. Lilith walked over to Annie, pressing a button on the chair beneath Annie. The chair slowly lifted up. This chair can be adjusted to different heights, Lilith said as she adjusted Annie to a comfortable level. Then she took a cloth and gently wiped Annie's hands and the bits of rice around her mouth. Finally, she placed the neglected spoon beside Annie's bowl. Don't eat with your hands. Use the spoon, Lilith said softly, looking at Annie as if she were her little sister. Although her goal was to bring Annie into her fleet, she also genuinely felt sorry for this poor little dwarf. All right, keep eating. Don't eat too fast, Lilith added. Hearing Lilith's permission to continue, Annie finally relaxed, swallowed her food, and sat obediently in the chair, eating her fried rice with the spoon. As she ate, tears started to fall. She had never tasted such delicious food before. On her home planet, resources were scarce, and it was hard to grow crops. They mainly collected inferior minerals and traded with interstellar merchants for artificial nutrient meals. During these 3 stolen months, she didn't know how her family was doing or if they had enough to eat. She wished they could also taste this wonderful food. Happy moments are always short. Annie finished every grain of rice on her plate, but she still looked toward the food counter. Earlier, she was too shy to look directly, but now she noticed that everyone entering the restaurant ordered their food there, and mechanical servers delivered it to their tables. Besides fried rice, there were many other delicious dishes. Another thing she noticed was that none of the people were human. They were all half-beasts. Suddenly, Lilith tapped Annie on the head. Startled, Annie held her head. Stop looking. You can't eat anymore. You're already full from eating so much. This is your first time trying this kind of food, and eating too much can hurt your stomach, Lilith said, recalling how her own demon tribe members felt when they first ate. During their hurried eating, most of them experienced bloated stomachs. The originally beautiful and charming succubi now had small bellies. People who didn't know might think Zhao Chun had caused a death in just a few days. Annie obediently nodded. Let's go take a shower first, Lilith said, leading Annie out of the dining hall to the spaceship's bathhouse. Soon, Annie looked completely refreshed. Her messy hair and dirty skin were now clean and neat. She changed into a fresh, cool outfit. A brand new little girl appeared in front of Lilith. So cute, Lilith said, looking at Annie's round cheeks, feeling the urge to squeeze them. Annie sniffed her own scent. She couldn't remember the last time she took a bath. She had long gotten used to her body's sour smell. Now that she was freshly washed and wearing clean clothes, she felt a bit strange. After the bath, Lilith took Annie to her bedroom. As a secretary officer, Lilith had a 50-square-meter single bedroom. It wasn't as big as the captain's room, but it had a private bathroom, a shower, a large bed, and a desk. Rest here for now. I need to go work, Lilith said, settling Annie in the room before leaving to work. This was a deliberate plan by Lilith. Letting Annie experience so much at once would give her time to process everything. This way, Lilith could more effectively guide Annie, the interstellar craftsman. Alone, Annie looked at the clean, tidy room. She walked to the fluffy bed, pressed her hand on it, and sniffed the scent. Carefully, she lay down and closed her eyes. She was very tired, but she just couldn't fall asleep. Finally, Annie got off the bed, went to a corner of the room, hugged her knees, curled up against the wall, and fell asleep quickly. A faint smile remained on her face, probably from a good dream. T2 Hyena-class medium interstellar destroyer, cargo hold Shinbing, was now counting the military and daily supplies purchased. This trip would take over a month round trip. Some supplies need to be prepared in advance. However, Shinbing only purchased 50% of the military supplies because she thought this was just a mission and the difficulty wouldn't be very high. So she didn't buy a full set of supplies. Shinbing looked at the expenses on the account sheet with a slight frown, then checked the remaining balance. There was still a large amount needed for her grandmother's treatment. 6 months' worth. This mission was very important. Although her share of the reward might be small, it was still a significant amount, several times more than the usual bounty tasks at the academy. "Grandma, wait for me." Shinbing bit her lip softly. At this moment, rows of cargo boxes were being delivered to the storage area outside T2 Hyena. "Hello, is Miss Shinbing here?" A delivery worker in uniform called out. Shinbing walked down from the starship in confusion. "Is there something you need from me? This is a batch of military supplies ordered for you. Please check and see if everything is correct." "Do you need us to bring it onto the ship?" the worker asked. "Ordered military supplies?" Shinbing was stunned. She quickly said, "I didn't order any supplies." "Are you sure there's a mistake?" Looking at the number of cargo boxes, it was enough to fill Shinbing's T2 Hyena with full ammunition and energy. This was Shinbing's starship, and she had never received such treatment before. "No mistake. This is your T2 Hyena, Miss Shinbing from the Northern Star Starship Military Academy. The payment has already been made by a gentleman. You just need to sign for it." The worker raised his hand, and a holographic electronic invoice appeared in front of Shinbing. Only then did Shinbing see the name of the person who paid. Surprisingly, its classmate Zhao Chun, Lu Lily, who was nearby, exclaimed. Shinbing clenched her fists. She was silent for a moment, then said, "Sorry, this isn't the supplies I ordered. Please return these supplies to the person who ordered them." The worker hesitated and said, "Well, that gentleman said that if you insist on refusing these supplies, please watch this message before making your decision." He then opened an electronic message. When Shinbing saw the content on the electronic message, she looked distracted. Finally, she whispered, "Shaoli, please move these military supplies onto the starship." "Got it." Lu Lily was very happy. The weight was enough to satisfy their T2 Hyena, allowing them to eat well this time. Shinbing stood nearby, watching the busy people. She was thinking about the words left by that young man. If you can ignore the lives of the crew members willing to take risks with you, you can refuse. Shinbing thought for a moment. She asked the worker who was transporting the supplies for the detailed bill of the military supplies, then sent a message to that person. Galactic Calendar, January 20th. 3031 A fleet of 300 T1 interstellar transport ships slowly departed from the third star system in the north, heading toward the outer edge of the galaxy. 32 starships accompanied them. This is our travel route. Since we are using T1 interstellar transport ships, we will perform 3 warp jumps. We will stop twice in the middle to rest, each time for half a day. Finally, we will arrive at the destination, the Sandflow City Star Fortress, on February 10th. After unloading, we will return along the same route to the third star system in the north by the end of February. The mission will then be complete. Does anyone have any questions? A man with the rank of third-class sergeant looked at the 4 video windows in front of him. They showed Zhao Chun, Shinbing, a woman in a leather jacket, and an older man smoking. This third-class sergeant was the leader of this fleet of interstellar transport ships. "That's all," the smoking man said. Zhao Chun and the others had no objections. After setting the route and schedule, everyone began preparing to enter warp mode. Because this time they needed to coordinate all starships' warp modes. The warp speed could only be at level 2. This was because the T1 starships were equipped with level 2 warp engines. Otherwise, this journey would only take 5 days for Zhao Chen's T2 Queen B-class heavy carrier starship to make a round trip. "Report, the formation is complete. Everything is normal. We will switch to the same frequency warp mode at 10:05, Lilith replied nearby. Zhao Chen looked at the star map, showing over 300 starships. After discussions among several parties, Zhao Chen's T2 Queen Bee ship and the interstellar transport fleet are positioned at the center of the fleet. The remaining ships are evenly spread around the interstellar transport fleet. As for the so-called same-frequency warp travel mode, it is an auxiliary system for the fleet that allows a formation of starships to enter warp speed at the same time and speed. They will also decelerate and stop together. This ensures that after exiting warp, the ships can still stay in a safe combat formation. Captain Shinbing doesn't seem to have accepted your kindness, Lilith said casually, chatting with Zhao Chen. Zhao Chen didn't hide what he did, including the message from Shinbing. The message said she accepted the military supplies, but that was her owed favor to Zhao Chen, which she would repay later. That squad leader is quite proud. I also noticed that during the starship duel I issued against Zhang Haoran, she was the only one in my squad besides Li Wei who came forward to advise me. Even though her tone wasn't very polite, Zhao Chen said with a smile. At that time, only Zhao Chen knew he could win that duel. Someone unrelated to him actually stepped forward to advise him, instead of mocking him like others. That was already very good. Lilith looked at Zhao Chen with a smile. Commander, you don't have only such small thoughts, do you? Seeing her gaze, Zhao Chen honestly said, All right, I admit it. I do have plans to recruit her as my subordinate in the future. She performed quite well at the Northern Star Starship Military Academy, though not as naturally talented as my sister. But she is a very promising candidate. Most importantly, she comes from a civilian background. If she isn't from nobility, it means there are no complicated vested interests, so Zhao Chen can use her boldly. Lilith understood Zhao Chen's meaning and agreed. Indeed, she's quite suitable, and our Shadow Dragon fleet is also lacking command talent in this area. But that squad leader seems a bit difficult to tame. Let's take it naturally. First, complete this mission, Zhao Chen shrugged. Afterward, the system warned that deep sea mode was about to activate. Zhao Chen and Lilith entered the sleep pods and began this mission. The first faster-than-light journey ended on the 7th day after the fleet departed, and everything was normal. After the T1 starships finished their rest, the fleet entered the second faster-than-light travel phase. But this time, Zhao Chen and others did not wake up on the scheduled 14th day. Instead, they were awakened by an alarm from the starship system. Warning! 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 A faster-than-light interference device has been detected on the route. The starship will exit faster-than-light travel mode on the same frequency. All crew members immediately return to battle stations. Warning! 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 On the route of faster-than-light travel. Immediately return to battle stations. Warning! At once, Zhao Chen woke up. The entire bridge was glowing with bright red light, and the sound of mechanical female voices filled the air with warnings. Zhao Chen immediately stepped out of the sleep pod. Cough, cough. Lilith staggered out of her sleep pod. Waking up in such an emergency still required a few seconds for her body to adjust, but it was only a brief moment. Lilith, immediately order all crew members to be at battle stations within 3 minutes. All starships must switch to Level 1 combat readiness. At the same time, the Queen-class heavy carrier starship must deploy all interstellar drones. Zhao Chen quickly issued commands. Yes. Lilith immediately began relaying the command. At this moment, Zhao Chen turned off the flashing red lights on the bridge, stopping the sharp warning sounds. The crew members quickly returned to their battle stations. Zhao Chen then carefully examined suspicious signals on the starship's radar. How could there be a faster-than-light interference device here? A video window popped up, and the smoking uncle cursed loudly. Several fleet flagships were connected through a fleet command network, allowing commanders to communicate via video quickly and efficiently. The interference device, as the name suggests, acts like a barrier. Once activated, it creates a disturbance that prevents ships from traveling faster than light. Any starship on a preset route passing through this area would be forced to exit faster than light travel mode. The woman in the leather jacket, usually flirtatious, spoke seriously. No need for investigation. The enemy has already appeared, Zhao Chen said in a deep voice. His starship's radar first detected suspicious energy signals. He shared this radar information with the other starships, including Uncle Smoking, the woman in the leather jacket, and Shinbing. Bing immediately added these energy signals to the database for comparison. Soon, they found signals on the same frequency. It's an interstellar battleship of the mechanical race, Bing exclaimed. The other commanders also received the same data. How did we run into a mechanical race battleship here? Uncle Smoking looked worried. Should we retreat? The woman in the leather jacket asked quietly. It's too late. The enemy is prepared. The mechanical race battleships appeared on the radar from 5 different directions, surrounding us. We're ambushed, Zhao Chen said quietly. Uncle Smoking threw away his cigarette, looking grim. If we can't escape, then we fight. Tell me, how do you plan to fight? Zhao Chen didn't answer. He kept staring at the starship radar, muttering to himself. I knew this noble young master had no real combat experience. When it comes to real fighting, he's scared stiff, Uncle Smoking said disdainfully. The woman in the leather jacket looked coldly at Zhao Chen. Her previous attitude was because she thought he might be a rich kid, but she knew that most of these wealthy young men were just show-offs in real battles. Bing opened her mouth to speak for Zhao Chen, but she only had a T2 starship and had little influence here. Listen up, if you don't want to die, follow my orders. Gather all combat starships now. First, destroy the enemy battleships from one direction, then deal with the others, Uncle Smoking ordered directly. The woman in the leather jacket agreed. Bing was worried and said, but if we do that, one side of the transport fleet will be left unprotected. We could suffer heavy losses if the mechanical race battleships attack. Kid, this is the battlefield. Your school is not the same. On the battlefield, victory often comes at a cost. Those interstellar transport ships are a price we must pay. If you don't want to die here, do as I say. The smoking uncle looked fierce and intimidating. This scared Bing quite a lot. Let's just do what he says, said the third-class officer in charge of the interstellar transport fleet, stepping forward. I've sent distress signals to the Sandstorm City Star Fortress and the Northern Sector 3-star system. The nearest fleet will arrive to support us in at least 24 hours. As long as we can hold out for 24 hours. Nonsense. 24 hours? My starship has already been destroyed by the enemy, the smoking uncle grumbled. The third-class officer stayed silent because that was the harsh truth. No, I think we have a better plan, Zhao Chen suddenly spoke up, who had been quiet until now. Kid, if you want to stay alive, don't talk. The smoking uncle lit another cigarette aggressively. Zhao Chen remained calm and said, the mechanical race's starships are divided into 3 groups, each heading in different directions. I've organized them into formations 1, 2, and 3. Each formation has 10 starships, making 30 in total, all T2 class ships. If, as you suggest, we concentrate our forces to attack one group of the mechanical ships, won't the enemy also focus their strength to surround us? If 2 groups of their starships combine, that's 20 T2 ships, which is a serious threat. Thanks to advanced starship radar, Zhao Chen showed everyone the detailed enemy ship positions. In 3 directions, there are 10 markers each, rapidly approaching the central fleet of transport ships. Zhao Chen had been waiting for this information. What exactly are you trying to say? The smoking uncle frowned, annoyed that Zhao Chen was disrupting his plans. Instead of gathering all our forces in one place, I think we should split our troops. Use our weaker fleet to delay some of the mechanical ships, while the stronger fleet focuses on destroying one group first. Then, they can support other battlefields, and finally, wipe out all the mechanical ships. Zhao Chen pointed at the 3 dots on the starship radar, as if a hunter was watching 3 prey. I thought the smoking uncle would argue, but instead he fell silent and looked thoughtful. Regarding the main attack mission, my fleet will handle it. Your 2 fleets are responsible for attracting and holding back 2 groups of mechanical starships. Bing's T2 starship will cover the fleet formation and support the battlefield when needed. Zhao Chen explained his plan. Isn't that a bit risky? The woman in a leather jacket asked worriedly. The smoking uncle stared intently at Zhao Chen. Kid, how confident are you? If your 2 fleets don't fall behind, they can delay the enemy for at least half an hour. I am confident we can handle it. The shorter the delay, the lower our chances of winning, Zhao Chen replied. Half an hour, the uncle muttered, then decisively said, all right, let's go with your plan. Zhao Chen was surprised that the uncle agreed. This made him feel a lot more relaxed, saving him from having to explain further. Even without the help of these 2 fleets, Zhao Chun had ways to deal with the mechanical starship fleet. But the starship transport fleet might suffer significant losses, which would make his efforts not worthwhile. Just as the mechanical fleet appeared, the system assigned Zhao Chun a new mission. Because of this mission, Zhao Chun developed a tactical plan focused on protecting the starship fleet. Mission details: the starship transport fleet difficulty level. B reward: 20 mission points and 5,000 points additional task. Save as many T1 starship transports as possible. 300/300. Penalty: deduct 5,000 points. One of the extra tasks was to protect 300 T1 starship transports. The more T1 transports that survived, the greater the reward. After assigning the combat mission, Zhao Chun began preparing to hunt his first target. His secretary, Lilith, was already ready with the relevant data screens nearby. One main data page and two subdata pages. The main data page is the battlefield for the Xianglong fleet. The other two subdata pages show the battlefields for the leather-clad woman's fleet and the smoking uncle's fleet, listing their respective starships and opponents. Based on data retrieved from the database, the enemy has 30 interstellar warships, 21 T2 mechanical guard-class medium interstellar patrol ships, 6 T2 mechanical dog-class medium interstellar destroyers, and 3 T2 Wolverine-class medium interstellar cruisers. Lilith quickly pulled up the data for these three types of ships. There are also holographic images of the ships. All three ships have a strong mechanical style, with black iron paint. This is a typical look for mechanical race starships. They look rugged, with no artistic decoration. Everything is designed for maximum efficiency. So, we are facing 7 T2 mechanical guard-class medium patrol ships, 2 T2 mechanical dog-class destroyers, and 1 T2 Wolverine-class cruiser, Zhao Chun said, focusing on his battlefield. Our side has 1 T2 Queen Bee heavy carrier starship and 5 T2 Black Rhinoceros heavy ships. 6 T2 starships versus 10 T2 starships. We are at a numbers disadvantage. Zhao Chun paused for a moment, then decisively ordered. The T2 Queen Bee moves out of the fleet formation and forms a triangle with the 5 T2 Black Rhinoceros ships. Understood. Lilith immediately relayed the command. The T2 Queen Bee left the fleet formation. This move was seen by the commanders of the other two battlefields. Oh my god, this kid actually sent his carrier starship out. Doesn't he know that the farther the carrier is from the battlefield, the better? In the interstellar transport ships, there are at least some cover. Smoking Uncle complained. The leather-clad woman stared at the star map with a serious expression. On the T2 Hyena-class medium interstellar destroyer bridge, Shin Bing stood at the front of the captain's chair. Due to a shortage of crew on the bridge, she had to handle 3 roles herself, so she couldn't sit as casually as Zhao Chun on the captain's chair. Lily Lu exclaimed nearby, "Zhao Chun, how did you manage to launch the carrier starship?" The enemy will definitely attack his carrier starship first." Then she whispered, "Come to think of it, I haven't figured out these past few days where his carrier starship came from. I've never heard of such a ship at the Academy before." During this mission, Zhao Chen's carrier starship surprised everyone on the Xinbing starship. They were curious about where Zhao Chun had gotten this ship. Xinbing looked at the radar, where a dot represented Zhao Chen's carrier starship. She said seriously, "Zhao Chun is trying to lure the enemy in. His advantage is the T2 Black Rhinoceros. I saw the battle footage from the Academy. The T2 Black Rhinoceros's strength is its tough armor, but its firepower is weak. If it keeps chasing the enemy's ships, it can easily be used as bait. Now, using that T2 carrier starship as bait, the enemy's starships will rush in. When they get close, the T2 Black Rhinoceros can use its short-range combat skills." Lily Lu covered her mouth. This is too crazy. Using your flagship, a carrier starship, as bait. What if something happens? In battle, we have to accept some risks and costs." Xin Bing clenched her fists. That was something she had just learned. 10 mechanical starships immediately sped up after spotting the enemy's carrier starship, heading straight for the T2 carrier starship. T2 Wasp-class heavy carrier starship. Bridge Zhao Chun raised his hand, pointing at the dot representing the T2 Wolverine-class medium star cruiser. "Wait for my command. First, destroy that cruiser. It's faster than the starship and has stronger firepower. We can't let it survive." The captains of the 5 T2 Black Rhinoceros ships waited for their commander's orders. They looked like 5 wild beasts chained up. Meanwhile, the mechanical starships on the other side had no idea what they were about to face. Soon, both fleets entered firing range, and the mechanical starships opened fire first. 5 T-2 Black Rhinos are now acting like ordinary interstellar patrol ships, forming a defensive line in front of the T-2 Queen Bee. Their close-range guns keep blocking enemy attacks. Soon, the bodies of the 5 T-2 Black Rhinos come under attack. However, a single laser main gun from a T-2 Wolverine-class medium-sized interstellar cruiser only leaves a small, a few centimeters long, scratch on the armor of the Black Rhinos. Attack! Zhao Chen's deep voice sounds in the minds of the 5 Black Rhinos bridge captains. At the same time, the 5 beasts rush toward the enemy ships, facing their fire. What is this kid doing? He actually made his patrol ships abandon the defense of the carrier starship and choose to attack actively. Uncle Smoker's cigarette drops to the ground as he stares at the 5 bright dots rushing out on the starship radar, spitting saliva. But soon, he notices something strange. The 5 bright dots on the radar suddenly speed up, much faster than before. And these 5 dots form a half-moon shape, heading straight for the T-2 Wolverine-class cruiser. What is this kid trying to do? Uncle Smoker keeps scratching his head, picking up his dropped cigarette to put it back in his mouth. He originally thought this wealthy young man's tactic was to use the carrier starship's combat system, with 5 T-2 patrol ships protecting the carrier. Then, they would use a swarm of interstellar drones to bombard and harass the enemy, aiming for victory. But now, the carrier starship seems to have become an abandoned child, with not a single patrol ship around. Is this crazy? Soon, he sees an even more disturbing scene. The 5 bright dots representing the patrol ships actually overlap with the bright dot of the enemy T-2 Wolverine-class cruiser. Yes, they overlap. Immediately, get me the deep space telescope view. Uncle Smoker orders his subordinates to bring up the battlefield footage. Boss, we're still fighting over here. The deputy points to their current battlefield. My orders are already given. No matter what, it won't take more than half an hour to finish. Don't bother me with excuses. Just bring up the footage. Uncle Smoker kicks the deputy. Soon, the deep space telescope footage is transmitted back. The smoking uncle looked blank, even as the cigarette in his hand burned down to his fingers without him noticing, until the pain suddenly shot through his nerves. Wow, he exclaimed, dropping the cigarette and staring intently at the scene. In the picture, 5 T-2 interstellar patrol ships like 5 spears pierced into the hull of a T-2 Wolverine-class medium-sized star cruiser. Yes, they had actually pierced the hull of the T-2 Wolverine, and it was clear that these 5 T-2 patrol ships were still accelerating, because cracks were spreading from the 5 impact points, extending across the hull, revealing the compartments beneath. The cracks continued to grow, covering the entire ship. This scene caught the other mechanical starships off guard. They could only use a few precise weapons to attack these 5 patrol ships, worried about damaging their own ships. But the armor on these patrol ships was so tough that their weapons could only leave tiny scratches. This standoff lasted for about 2 minutes. Then, the entire T-2 Wolverine-class cruiser suddenly shattered. Yes, it broke apart completely. Cracks from the 5 impact points extended until the ship split into pieces, becoming debris. It was the first starship to fall in this battle, and it fell in such a dramatic way. Wow, starships can be played like this? The smoking uncle was stunned. What kind of interstellar patrol ship was this? They were actually doing disassembly? After the 5 T-2 Black Rhinoceros-class heavy patrol ships completed their first hunt, they started looking for their next target. A T-2 Mechanical Dog-class medium-sized star destroyer. The targeted T-2 Mechanical Dog tried to put some distance between itself and the attackers, but the 5 T-2 Black Rhinoceros suddenly sped up, like 5 bloodthirsty beasts pouncing. No matter how much the T-2 Mechanical Dog struggled, it was useless. The more it struggled, the more fiercely the 5 T-2 Black Rhinoceros attacked. A terrifying scene even appeared. 4 of the T-2 Black Rhinoceros ships precisely used their large black horns to pin the enemy ship from 4 directions, fixing the T-2 Mechanical Dog in place. The remaining T-2 Black Rhinoceros aimed at the weakest part of the T-2 Mechanical Dog and launched repeated attacks. Its large black horn kept piercing through the armor of the mechanical dog's rear hull. During this time, the T-2 Queen-class heavy carrier starship's interstellar drones were also busy, launching wave after wave of attacks against the T-2 mechanical guard-class medium interstellar frigates. However, these mechanical starships were clearly confused by the strange interstellar frigates of the enemy. Soon, they made new battle plans. Since the enemy's frigates are so tough, I won't bother with them for now. Instead, I will focus on attacking their carrier starship. The remaining mechanical starships immediately ignored the ship being bullied by the T-2 Black Rhinoceros and charged straight toward the T-2 Queen. T-2 Queen-class heavy carrier starship. Bridge. Report. 6 T-2 mechanical guard-class medium interstellar frigates and 1 T-2 mechanical dog-class medium interstellar destroyer have locked onto our ship with their weapons systems, the crew reported. Queen, start moving at full speed to keep all these starships on one side of our hull. Also, prepare to raise our star shield, Zhao Chun ordered. His T-2 Queen dared to stay here alone because it had support. Through the deep space telescope, the old man smoking saw that all main and secondary guns of the 6 enemy starships were aimed at the T-2 Queen. His heart tightened. Although the carrier starship's hull was relatively tough, it couldn't withstand the continuous attacks from 6 enemy ships forever. Report. That woman has escaped with her fleet, the deputy suddenly announced. The old man smoking frowned as he looked at the starship radar. The fleet of the woman in leather, originally responsible for defending against another group of 10 mechanical starships, had now made a detour and was fleeing, completely ignoring the 10 mechanical starships behind her. That woman, the old man muttered. Though he hated her shameless tactics, there was nothing he could do now but watch helplessly as her fleet escaped. However, half of her starships were being chased by the T-2 mechanical starships behind them. Because they didn't form a proper battle formation, it was only a matter of time before they were destroyed. When their friendly ship was being chased, the woman in leather didn't hesitate at all. She directly fled into deep space. At the same time, another battlefield appeared in the deep space telescope. 6 mechanical starships had their main guns aimed and fired simultaneously. Laser beams shot toward the carrier starship. The smoking old man couldn't bear to watch anymore. He took a deep drag on his cigarette and looked away. It seemed their mission was doomed. He was just a lonely man, so he didn't care much, but he felt sorry for his fleet brothers who risked their lives with him. Wow. Boss. Look. It's a star shield. Kid, this is a T-2 starship. Where would it get a star shield? The smoking old man rolled his eyes. Star shields are only standard technology on T-3 starships. The deputy hurriedly said, It's really a star shield. That T-2 carrier starship really has a star shield. Boss, look for yourself. I'm not lying. I think you're about to die and seeing things. If a T-2 starship had a star shield, I could eat. 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 The old man impatiently looked at the scene, but his expression froze at that moment. Seeing his boss seemingly frozen in place as if a pause button had been pressed, the deputy shouted, Boss. Boss. Boss? The old man stared fixedly at the scene, at the semi-transparent energy shield blocking one side of the T-2 carrier starship. That was clearly a star shield only found on T-3 starships. Really, it's a star shield. The old man rubbed his eyes, still unwilling to believe what he saw. But the scene didn't lie, and the shield was clearly working. The mechanical starship's firepower rained down on the shield, but all of it was blocked. Ripples formed across the shield. Could that be a T-3 carrier starship? The old man frowned. Even the smallest T-3 light carrier starship was over a kilometer long. How could a less than 500-meter T-3 carrier starship have such a shield? But the shield didn't make sense either. The old man kept scratching his head. This was truly a strange, noble young master. That starship, the Interstellar, is already strange enough, recklessly crashing into other ships without taking damage. Now, this carrier starship is even more impressive, using T-3 technology to deploy a star shield. If I can't understand it, I won't try, grumbled the smoking uncle irritably, but soon he smiled. Looks like that noble kid's tactics might actually work. But boss, our situation here doesn't look good, said the deputy, looking at the battle on the starship radar with concern. The smoking uncle frowned. What? Do you think my starships can't hold out for half an hour? Although the mechanical race's starships are very strong, if they form a good formation and accept some minor casualties, they should be able to hold for half an hour. The mechanical fleet that was led by that woman's fleet is now close to destroying the remnants left behind by that nasty woman. Once those starships are all destroyed, this mechanical fleet will definitely threaten us. Facing one mechanical fleet is tough enough, and now we have to deal with another one at the same time. The deputy hesitated. The smoking uncle looked thoughtful. This was indeed a tough problem. Anyway, we take it one step at a time. If we run like that woman, we won't survive in the Starshine Empire. Carrying out imperial military missions and becoming deserters, that would get us wanted by the entire Galactic Alliance. The uncle was clearly annoyed whenever he mentioned that nasty woman. With the noble kid's fleet and that woman's fleet working together, there's a real chance of victory. That nasty woman didn't even look at the situation and just ran away. Hey, there's a T2 starship appearing in that battle direction. The deputy suddenly pointed at a moving dot on the radar. The smoking uncle looked closely and exclaimed, "That's that student girl's starship." These young people are really full of surprises. Shinbing's T2 Hyena-class medium starship stood like a lone wolf, blocking the way between the Star Transport fleet and the remaining mechanical starships that had destroyed the leather-clad woman's fleet. The remaining crew of the leather-clad woman's fleet was in chaos because they had not prepared properly at the start of the battle. When the mechanical starships attacked, everything fell apart like headless flies. 6 starships were destroyed and drifted as wreckage in space. The 10 mechanical starships, however, only had minor damage to their hulls, and none of them were lost. After eliminating the current target, the 10 mechanical starships focused on blocking their way with the T2 Hyena. "Captain, they are coming," Lu Lily reported nervously. Shinbing took a deep breath and looked at the 10 mechanical starships on the screen. "For the greater good, we must do everything we can. All ships, prepare for battle." "Understood." The crew on the starship, though nervous, steeled themselves and got ready to fight. Most of the crew Shinbing recruited were ordinary people with some basic starship driving skills. They had probably only operated civilian T1 starships before. After Shinbing offered favorable conditions, they decided to join her starship. There were also civilians like Lu Lily from the Northern Star Military Academy. "Keep the starship in high-speed maneuvering. Main and secondary guns, prepare," Shinbing ordered. She then directed her T2 Hyena into the fight. Shinbing didn't recklessly charge her starship into the enemy. She knew she couldn't fight 10 ships alone. Her goal was to delay as long as possible. She kept her starship at a safe distance, using it to harass the enemy with fire and draw their attention. It was like dancing on a tightrope. A small mistake could lead to falling into the abyss. At first, Shinbing's T2 Hyena could barely hold on, but soon the 10 mechanical starships formed a semicircular formation around her. Meanwhile, their main and secondary guns started hitting the T2 Hyena's hull. "Report, the starboard side armor was hit. Remaining strength is 90%. "Report, the front armor was hit. Remaining strength is 85%. "Report, all the soldiers on the bridge could feel the starship shaking violently, and they could hear a sound like a painful groan coming from the ship's hull. Suddenly, a louder explosion occurred, causing the entire bridge to shake intensely several times. Some crew members lost their balance and fell to the ground, stumbling and tumbling. "Report, the left side of our ship's armor has been hit by the enemy's main cannon. The armor is severely damaged in some areas. Nearby compartments are already evacuating personnel, and those compartments are being sealed off." Shinbing's expression was serious, and sweat beads covered her forehead. At this moment, her T2 Hound starship's armor strength was nearly 50% damaged overall. Moreover, the enemy ship was getting closer and closer, which meant their next attack would be even more fierce. Her starship's destruction was only a matter of time. Could it be that she was really going to die here? For the first time, Shinbing felt a deep sense of helplessness. Despite her strong will, she longed to confide her worries to someone and hoped for protection. She couldn't help but recall the Starship Duel event at the Northern Star Military Academy, where Zhao Wanner had a brother who stood up for her and helped resolve the issue. She also wished she had such a brother, like a safe harbor. "Report, the enemy has locked onto our starship with 3 main cannons, and we cannot avoid their attack," Lu Lily exclaimed as she looked at the flashing red control screen. Shin Bing closed her eyes in despair. Sorry, Grandma. Little Bing Bing might have to break her promise this time. A few seconds later, the expected explosion and the loud crash after being hit did not happen. Instead, Lu Lily's excited voice came through. It's Zhao Chen's carrier starship. Shin Bing opened her eyes. Through the images collected by the ship's sensors, she saw a T-2 carrier starship positioned above her T-2 Hound. At the same time, a semi-transparent star shield was blocking the front of both starships. The attack from the mechanical interstellar warship only caused a few ripples on the star shield. Then, 5 T-2 Black Rhinoceros-class heavy ships leapt out, braving the enemy's fire and charging straight ahead. At this moment, Shin Bing's handheld device vibrated a few times. She opened it and saw a message from Zhao Chun. He told her to withdraw her starship from the battlefield and said he would handle things on this side. He also asked if her communication system was broken. Is our communication system broken? Shin Bing checked her communication system. Sure enough, because of the continuous shelling earlier, it was now malfunctioning. Even the starship's radar system had issues. No wonder she didn't receive any alerts about Zhao Chen's fleet supporting her. Hoo. Shin Bing, you scared me. I thought I was going to die. I haven't even had a boyfriend yet. Lu Lily suddenly started crying, her nerves finally relaxing after being so tense. Shin Bing looked at Lu Lily and the other crew members on the bridge, who looked like they had just been saved. Her usually cold face showed a small smile. She looked up at the large carrier starship that appeared above her starship like a barrier on the screen. A strange feeling of safety filled her heart. Less than 20 minutes have passed, and Zhao Chen's battle is already over. Shin Bing was curious. She used her deep space telescope to check another part of the battlefield managed by Zhao Chen's fleet. What she saw was shocking. In that part of space, there were wrecks of starships scattered everywhere. Some were shattered into pieces, some split in half, and others still had their entire hulls intact, but covered with bomb marks, full of holes. Not a single one of the 10 T-2 interstellar warships of the mechanical race survived. What kind of terrifying combat power was this? It was impressive that just one T-2 carrier starship and 5 T-2 interstellar ships could do this. Who had ever seen a T-2 carrier starship with a star shield? And a T-2 ship daring to face a starship battleship head-on? Where did Zhao Chun get these strange starships? Shin Bing muttered to herself, unable to hold back her surprise. From the earlier starship capable of reaching 100 times the speed of light and equipped with a 1,200mm giant cannon, called the No. 0 Blizzard, to the T-2 Black Rhinoceros, which became famous after single-handedly fighting a similarly ranked starship battleship at the Northern Star Military Academy. And now, this unknown T-2 carrier starship with a star shield. What kind of powerful starship was this? This man no longer seems like the noble young master who studied diligently for 3 years. Perhaps because he is familiar with the fighting style of the mechanical starship,